Good morning from Chamonix. Welcome to the Tea and Trails podcast with Gary and Eddie. The best podcast you're ever going to listen to. Full of laughter, information, and Alan Partridge innuendos. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. See you later.
Thanks, Mark Thacker, for this week's intro, all the way from Chamonix. Oh my goodness, those mountains. They look sensational. He was repping a Tea and Trails bobble hat too. Thanks for that, Mark. And if you want to look as awesome as Mark, then you are in luck. We've got some bobble hats in stock, available over at www.teaandtrails.com. Bit of housekeeping right at the top of the show.
So boring. Welcome to episode 92 of the Tea and Trails podcast. You guys are in for a treat this week. Another tale from the 2024 Dragon's Back race this week with Andrea Harwood as she shares her story. Well, it's not just about 2024. We shouldn't really say that, do we? Her whole story. Inspirational, hilarious, and I think just a testimony of you keep going. There's many different angles that you can approach things. And I love her tenacity. Is that the right word?
Just keep showing up. Love it.
I say that to myself every day when the alarm goes off. What the hell am I? What am I doing? Just keep showing up.
Thanks to our Patreon partners who share some awesome discount codes with our Patreons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Vela Forte, Protein Rebel, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Silver Sweden, Active Route, the Centurion Running Store, sportshoes.com, Big Bubble Hats, Harrier, Trail Running, X Miles, Fawnside Farm Cottages, Ugogu Projects, Hellfire Events, Red Bear Sports, the Alban app, Retainer Group, Cycle Protection, Summit Crazy, Beat It Sports, Lumi Activewear, Phoenix Lights UK, Bridgedale Socks, Nav4, NAC Nutrition, Flaming Phoenix, and Ultra Trails too. Extra shout out to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Protein Rebel. We use their products I keep saying every week, but my goodness me, it is every day. And you poured scorn on my porridge chat last week. I had a listener reach out via my DMs. You just said it was boring. I had a listener reach out, and that is how we pimp up the porridge. A little bit of protein powder in there. You might have heard, if you're keen ears, there, new Patreon perk, Flaming Phoenix. Hands up. Neither of us have tried this product yet, but we've got some dates. So
this maybe this slipped in under the radar, dear listeners. This is not something that I've signed off on. Hey, you're like I've been watching Slow Horses, and she gets like the head of the whatever it is, Secret Service to sign things by covering it up in a load of forms. So she just goes, sign this, sign this, sign this. This is what you've done.
Oh, that's what I do, yeah.
Yeah, what's going on here? And I bet we have been sent some of these and you've eaten them all.
Like last time. Well, yeah, Phoenix bars, these Phoenix bars, they're a specialized calorie dense. I've heard quite a few times people saying about the 600 calorie mark. And if you're getting that through carbs, wow, that's a lot of carbohydrates.
That's a lot of chewing.
But this is a mix. So you get 552 calories per flapjack. It's highly compact, lightweight, ultra high energy. So you get 66 grams of carbohydrate per bar. It's easy to eat, easy to digest. And the Phoenix bars, they're also sustainable, vegan, palm oil free, with 18 grams of protein and the climate resilient. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that means. I think it's the coconut oil. I'm sure that stops them go super hard. And I remember when I was helping out on the spine race, some people were complaining about their products freezing in the temperature. So maybe that is what the coconut oil is for too. And yeah, like I said, we've not tried it, but that 18 grams of protein, if you can...
It's a good snack bar, that. I don't need to eat this on the trail.
Sometimes I get famished when I'm doing a long run. That could be, if I can stomach it.
I just get famished at 10 o'clock. Can I retell the story of a flapjack that I once ordered? It's quite a few years ago, and I sent to my mum and dad's because I was going over to do a race, and I forgot. I think they arrived late or something. Anyway, mum and dad, you remember this? Mum and dad. Then I said, "Oh, did those flapjacks ever turn up?" And mum and dad said, "Oh, we thought you'd sent them to us as a little treat. We've been enjoying one every day with our cup of tea at 11." I was like, "Mum, there's like 800 calories in each of those
Delicious.
Delicious. Really set me up for my lunch. Mum and Dad on an absolute high, doing laps around the garden. Love it. If you'd like to save money and support the podcast and our partners, please consider joining Patreon. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you'd like to buy some awesome Tea and Trails merch.
Thank you to our show sponsors, Precision Fuel and Hydration, X Miles, Beat Outdoor Sports, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. And patrons can get 15% off over at Precision Fuel and Hydration. Also, if you'd like to try Precision Fuel and Hydration, then new customers can get 15% off their first order with the code, all caps, T, and then the number 24. That is super simple, all caps T24. And new Protein Rebel customers can enjoy 15% off their first order too with the code T. And that is not all caps. That is a capital T, lowercase e and a, and the number 15. Links to all our sponsors can be found in the show notes or over at teaandtrails.com.
I love it when you do the reading of that, because when I do the reading of that, I'm like, people can find the codes. Let's just get on with the show. And you are so kind. You're like the teacher. I'm like the teacher that goes and then just like, get on with it. Don't talk to me. I'm reading Heat magazine.
Carrot the stick, Eddie. Carrot the stick.
And you're the like, now let me, can you do not understand it? Let me help you. Here's the codes. So you're lucky you got kind Gary this week. I did a massive treadmill session on Saturday. And because obviously priorities in my new house that there is not space without a box or cardboard or wrapping, but I have got the treadmill all set up and ordered a Wi-Fi booster so I can connect to the internet. I've got plugs. I have to climb around all the boxes. Anyway, I did this massive deets later in the podcast, but I took one bottle of Precision Fuel Hydration, but someone had taken my big bottle, which I normally use, which is a litre. And so I just had a 500 ml with a 1500 Precision Fuel Hydration in, but that's all so I drank that during the session, and then I got carried away. I came inside and then started unpacking, and I didn't drink anything else, Gary. Eddie was by about 4:00, and then we had stuff to do. We had kids stuff to do, blah, blah, blah. By about 4:00, I had the worst headache known to man. I was feeling nauseous, and I thought, I know what this is, Eddie. All you've done is drink tea, and you have not drunk your electrolytes.
Amateur.
Such an amateur move, and I never learn. Drink your electrolytes, especially if you're training indoors, because the sweat is it's almost like you have to double up. Like I would have used that amount of drink probably if I'd been running outside, but I wouldn't have been sweating as much. So if you are training indoors, note to self, keep drinking and keep drinking afterwards as well.
Well, how's your hydration situation at the moment? Because I've got a complaint. Last week's show, listeners won't have heard this, but there was a lot of lip smacking.
Do you know, that's really weird because I think it's the new house is quite dry. So I'm finding my lips are quite chapped.
Too much noise from your lips.
The lips are dry. I need to moisturize. I think it's because I'm not used to having heating. We've got heating on and I've not had heating before. We were so excited. I think it's on too high.
You're right, actually. This is a winter date. I always get dry lips in the winter and I get an itchy back. It's pretty...
An itchy, what did you say?
Itchy back. Is it quite common, actually? I've got like a little hair island on my back. It's like a little, just above.
Oh, no, I cannot. I do not even want to go there.
As I get older, I get less hair up there.
No, no.
Okay, moving.
God, poor people trying to run. So I will try not to. I've got some more tea, but I haven't taken the tea bag out. So look at the colour of this.
Oh,
can you see?
My goodness.
Oh my God.
You're a disgrace.
So when you're next talking, I'm just waiting for the temperature to go down so I don't take the skin off my fingers. When you're next talking and I'm feigning to look interested in your arms or the Rex, I'm going to dip my fingers in that tea to find the tea bag, but it's so hot at the moment I can't do it. No, it's still too hot.
One for YouTube listeners. Who's going first? Come on, before we...
Me! Let me go first. So last week when we chatted, I was in the house with no things. I'm now in the house again. Still no things, but a lot of boxes. I won removals day, Gary. I won. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't a race for anybody apart from Eddie. And she won. Those guys, come on, off the lorry. Quick, what are you doing? I don't think the removals men had ever met anybody quite like Eddie. And They thought it was hilarious that they were getting everything out the lorry and they couldn't believe the random stuff that was good. They must have said, they were telling me all sorts of stories that they should not have been telling me about.
I'd love a bit of
know.
goss.
I was like, no, I can't tell this on the podcast about things that had happened when they'd been doing removals and stuff. They had a great time. And our lovely people who we bought the house from had left us some very nice M&S posh biscuits.
Ooh.
But I hadn't got any biscuits for the removal men. So I had to crack open. Anyway, I fed them. No, I know you wouldn't normally, like, you'd keep the posh biscuits for posh, but I thought, one, they're moving all the stuff, and two, I need them to eat this sugar because I want this done. Let's go. Anyway, they were having such fun with everything that we had, all the kids' stuff getting off the lorry, that when I looked out the window about halfway through the day, they had all the archery sets set up on the grass.
Playing football. They got the nets up.
Yeah, they were setting up the goals. They was playing the football. Every bit of sporting equipment that came off the lorry. There, at one point, one came down and he had the climbing ropes like looped over his shoulders and holding the ice axe, and he was like, this is hilarious.
Brilliant.
Anyway, I was so glad. I talked about this when I talked at the World Heart Runners event about my strength training. I was so glad for my strong, oh my God, my strong arms, my strong back, my strong legs. I must have done about 50,000 steps and carried about 10,000 boxes, and not just carried the boxes, but then they were putting me under a bit of pressure because they said, anything you unpack, we can take the boxes and the wrapping away today.
Oh, I like it.
Don't say that to me. Don't say that to me. I don't need that sort of
challenge.
Like, what you're saying, you thinking I couldn't do this? You think I couldn't unpack all these boxes? Well, I'm going to do this.
This is like when you were talking about the solicitor. It's not all.
I guess can't help it, Gary. I think people are constantly doubting what I'm capable of. The same happened this morning. So we sold all our furniture with our. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. We sold all our furniture with our house. We don't have any furniture, so we've had to order literally everything. We don't have anything, even like a waste paper bin. We've got nothing. So this morning we had a big delivery of basically like kids stuff. The kids are just getting super, there's no money being spent on that furniture because I know exactly what's going to happen. Stickers and squash and glitter. And anyway, the delivery men turned up this morning and I sort of showed them the door and I said, all right, it's up the stairs. And they went, no, I can't carry that up the stairs, health and safety. I said, okay, well, it says on my delivery thing that you'll take it to my room of choice. I could hurt myself carrying upstairs. So I went, okay, pass it to me then. He passed me the flat pack chest of drawers. As he passed it to me, Gary, it was so heavy. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'll carry it then.
Oh, Eddie, my goodness.
Head up the stairs. And I got like, it's a stairs with like a turn halfway. And I got halfway at the turn. And I thought, please have gone back outside. I just need a moment here. Turn around, he was gone. I was like, oh my God, thank God. Anyway, I made a great point of like, oh, fine, I'll carry it upstairs then. I don't want to make bad blood with the delivery guys because they're probably going to be.
You need them to keep grafting, yeah.
Just like, oh, come on, just carry it. Come on, carry it up the stairs. The mattress. Come on. I did it all, Gary. Can see what like carrying fun, like the removals guys had really good systems. They'd be like hands, 1, 2, up.
Pivot.
I've got it. You've got pivot. Oh my God, the Friends bit from anybody that loves Friends was just a pivot. We decided to move beds around, so they put the beds up in the rooms. We've got 2 beds that we brought with us, and then Bryn said, actually, this bed is too big in this room. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not, please. It's not. He's like, it is too big. So we've got to take it apart and carry it. But he's right. I'm running a lot of miles and doing a lot of sessions and gym work. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to. That's what teenagers are for, though. That's what the boys are for. Anyway, so we're in, we've got stuff. We still don't have beds. We're on, I tried to find, it's really hard to find air mattresses. I kept going to places and they were like, no, only at Christmas we have air mattresses. Did find some eventually. I bought 2 doubles because I know those air mattresses, they're small. I thought, I'm not sharing an air mattress with Bryn. No, thank you. He's lucky he gets to share a double bed with me because I prefer my own bed and duvet. Anyway, we have had so much hilarity on the air mattress. And this is as much as I'm allowed to share because he actually did say you are not to share. They're really, when you've lain on them all night, they're really hard to get off in the morning.
Yep.
Like you can't, and especially if you're also running quite a few miles and your legs are quite stiff in the morning and you haven't got the power.
You have to roll off them.
So I have designed, and if anybody needs this help, if there's perhaps on an air mattress or find themselves, so you have to roll onto your front. You then have to push with your hands, with your butt in the air so that your feet get to the other end of the bed. And then you go into a downwards dog, walk your feet to the end of the mattress, and then you stand up. And then you begin the hobble to find your slippers and go to the bathroom. Bryn hadn't learned this, and he just tried to do the classic roll off, but then the mattress like flipped up and he ended up on the floor, and then he's like, I can't actually get up. We've got quite a few weeks of air mattress shenanigans to go before our bed comes. I'm now I've got the roll down and downwards dog. I'm happy with them. They're pretty comfy, but Bryn's not so happy.
They stay up all night. Is it still inflated in the morning?
Yeah, no. So you must again, once you've negated got yourself off the air mattress, you must remember to repump.
Oh, there's so much admin.
Otherwise, I
don't like it.
So much mattress admin, and they look like a couple of tramps are in the corner, because you know what I'm like about making my bed. But the air mattress seems to be like, what's the point of pulling sleeping bag?
Never been in a waterbed. I've never been in a waterbed.
No, but I can imagine it's much like an air mattress. Anyway, one day, so I have felt quite stiff the last few days, and I thought, oh, my back, my legs were quite stiff, and I thought, pretty much because I am actually sleeping on the carpet at the moment. It can't be helpful. One of my kids wasn't here the other night, and he has got the bed. He's got the bed. So I sneakily went and slept in his bed and thought, I bet he notices. I bet he gets in the bed and goes, Mom, it stinks. Anyway, with all that going on, all the removals, I still single-handedly moved house. And I also, kudos to me, heavy flex Eddie, managed all my sessions and my gym work. Actually, that is a lie. I did my one gym session, and then my second gym session I counted as I did my like core and boring physio exercises, but I counted removals day as gym day, because I thought, why, like, come on, that's ridiculous. You don't need to now go and lift weights. You've lifted 8 million
I'll give you
boxes.
That. If that was a Brew with the coach's question, someone in a physical job, we'd be like, yeah, give yourself some grace.
Yeah, honestly, by Saturday, my legs, I felt like I'd done the spine. My legs and my feet were so sore, because you just don't sit down all day, because every time I would like walk past a box, I'd be like, oh, what's in it? And then I'd start unpacking it. And then,
well, I don't eat enough on days like that. I'm like getting the sugar. I'm getting the crash.
The crash. I had a few. And then, because then I'd realize all the push bit, I've got nothing. Nothing. There was some very questionable dietary choices. We did find our local chippy. We drove around.
Yes.
Which I didn't realize how close to a wee town we were, because I've just been running around the fields. I've got no interest of where. But as soon as Bryn came back, he's like, let me show you how to get to Co-op. And then he took a left and drove like a mile. And I was like, oh my God,
civilization. Brilliant.
There's a town. This is brilliant. He's like, yeah, that's why we chose the house. Because I was like, I had no idea.
The trails.
So I was heading the other way to the trails. So we found our local chippy. Do you know what we got with our chips? So everyone else had haddock and chips. I had a veggie burger and chips. We got free.
Iron Brew.
Yeah,
has to be.
Iron Brew for all. I haven't got a taste for it, but my God, the kids have got a taste for it.
It's a sensational drink.
Free
when we were in Edinburgh, and I was in the I went to the supermarket for something, I can't remember what it was, but wow, the dedication to shifting Iron Brew was unbelievable. There's a lot of shelf space committed to it.
It's like a Lucasade, I think. That's what it takes. People are going to hate me for that. They're going to hate me. Don't come at me. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's go back to running. So within all that, I got 3 by 10 minutes on the roads. Felt good, enjoyed that on the roads, but I don't have any road. I keep saying, don't I need to get some road shoes, because there's a little bit of trail, but the trail is not like, you don't really need a trail shoe for it. And so I did it in my trail shoes, which are fine, but I don't want to run my lugs down. You know, so and then I did a mighty uphill effort because I had my treadmill set up. I was so excited. I wanted to snog it, Gary. I was so happy to see it. And it's in the garage, so it's out. The hyenas can't find me because I'm outside, whereas my treadmill before was in the house, so they could always come in. Mom, where's my? Now they have to come. If they must really want me if they're going to come and find me on the treadmill. And also it's outside in the garage. So I started my session on Sunday in a puffer jacket which is it's just such a nicer experience. And I could turn my music up really loud. Anyway, I've only done this session a couple of times before. John Alban inspired session. You put the treadmill up at 12%. That's as high as my treadmill goes.
Yep.
Run for 20 minutes, starting off at like a sort of like, this feels quite comfy. Like it's not super easy, but it's not hard pace. But I do it all on heart rate. So, and then you keep running until your heart rate gets to me is 165 is when I hit my lactate. I feel the lactate burn, basically. And I feel the breathing turn from like controlled, steady effort to squeaky hinge. And so whichever comes first, the 20 minutes or the 165 heart rate. So it's a really good exercise at trying to, you can get your heart rate up if you want it to finish. You can start thinking about air mattresses and stuff, or you can really practice pulling your heart rate down by breathing like. So mine sat at like 160, 161, 162. And then when I got to 20 minutes, I was like, let it go, get up. I want to have my 2-minute jog. Then I do 2 minutes and then you repeat it and you set yourself 15 minutes again. But if your heart rate gets above 165, you stop early. But it's pretty much bang on. I don't know how much of this is mental, but again, it got to 15 and it hit 155. So you're hitting that lactate point earlier because obviously you're getting tighter as the session goes on. So then 20, 15, I was quite tired by then 10, and then 5. Ooh. Hitting that point where you think back to, that first 20 minutes didn't feel so hard. The last 5 minutes, you're like, oh, my legs. It doesn't sound too much on paper, but it's a grinder. So you're not like, it's not like a sort of 8x3 minutes, but you come off the treadmill with having, I think I did about 5 miles, 3,000 feet of climbing.
Yes, that's really similar to what I've got. Mine's 15, 8 and 5. So not as much volume, but similar theory.
I just find running uphill is, I say this, it really saves my legs, but I did do then my long run the day after and I felt pretty much okay. If I'd done that on the flat, I have just too prone to getting niggles, hamstrings. If I do it uphill, I just much prefer the way that it feels, and my heart rate, I think, responds like I can sit with it in that 160 where I know the good stuff happens.
Yeah, especially on the treadmill.
If I sit with it 160 on the road, I'm having to run really fast. And I think that biomechanically, now I'm getting older, I just have to think of different ways to train. So I really enjoyed that. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos. Then when you get in the deep pit of it, you just put on AC/DC and let's just do this. So I enjoyed that. And then the rest of my running was all dogs have been safely on the lead. I mix up between the Canicross lead and the handheld lead because the Canicross lead, Lindy just pulls me like a freaking...
Rex is the same.
I'm just... Something about that harness, she just loves to pull against it. Running downhill, and when you're tired, I'm like, I don't want to run this fast, Lindy.
Yeah. Well, I've changed my run, so I can, from my house, it's not really hilly, but I can either go slightly downhill or slightly uphill. I have to go slightly uphill, exactly, because Rex is full of beans straight out the door. First mile is like, I don't know, not enjoying one step of this at all.
Do you tell him that? I say, Lindy, I'm not enjoying this. Why do you need to behave? So I put her on that. We did quite a few miles on that yesterday, and then my knees are so sore. So today I just had them on handheld, which means then you haven't got your arms to. I do find I get tired, like running uphill. I'm like, I have to keep swapping. I have to keep swapping the hands as well because one doesn't pull and one's pulling, but it's much more comfortable. So I am, as I tried to explain to you before we started recording, I am trying to find places where they can go off the lead, but I'm not having any run-ins with anybody. What a week, Gary. By the weekend, my gosh, I was so tired. But that's it. You just got to You got to do it.
Suck it
It was
up.
a big move, but we're here now. That's it. We've got to suck it up. We're all alive. We're here. And now we can change the narrative of this podcast from removals to, I've just been thinking, can I get down on the Winter 200 course to recce it? Because both the Spine and the Northern Traverse, I really profited well from 3 or 4 days on the trails.
It's a big commitment, Eddie.
Like
That's got to be Christ. It's like half a day of traveling.
I don't think I can, Gary, which will mean that I know the South Downs way, but I'm running it the different way. I know the North Downs way. I know the Vanguard way, but I've not run it for about 10 years. I just think I'm just going to have to do it.
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
Freestyle.
It's a lot of time. My goodness me.
It's a freestyle on just hope and pray that my watch works. It'll all be fine. So yeah, I was hoping I might get down, because also it's a really good training camp as well. But I just think where we are right now, it's just not going to happen. And I might just have to set myself up for a little training camp here and just put like 3 or 4 days aside when Mum's going to be out running. It's a bit harder, isn't it, to do that? But we'll see. But things are all moving in the right direction now, and life can become a little bit more normal, and we can breathe again.
I am back running just small runs, Rex and my mates. I think I did getting right to the totals before I've even talked about the rest of the week, but about 25 miles for the week.
Madness. People won't know what to do with themselves.
25 miles for the week. I had hoped that I'd run more, but this cold that I've got and still got, it was there, then it seemed to fade away, and then it came back. So I only managed one strength session. I wondered on the day afterwards that my abs were aching. I'm thinking, DOMs just from doing sit-ups and stuff like that. So that was quite good. But yeah, like I said, the cold went away, came back again. So I just didn't, it was going to be Thirsty Thursday and I couldn't do it. I felt so poorly, and I just went for a Thirsty Thursday stroll while everybody else went for a run. I went for a walk, and I love that time. The group, for one, that it's okay to do that. There's not this kind of, this ego and machoism going on.
You did that in my running group, I'd be whatever.
Well, as long as I was back in time for the pub, I think that was the only criteria. But yeah, and I thought it was nice. There's been a few times people have been injured or maybe come back for a race. It hasn't always married up with what the rest of the group's doing. So they've always done walks and things like that. So it's quite nice that the group is strong. People still want to go and be part of the group, even if they're not running. I enjoyed it. As far as running's concerned, not a lot to report. But are you watching Celebrity SAS?
I haven't got a TV yet, Gary.
Oh.
So I think we started the first one back a few weeks ago when it started.
A lot of them go on this show because they think they're going to push their boundaries. And I'm a bit more cynical. I think it's just because they're kind of keeping their profile relevant. This week's episode, they had the family letters. And I don't know if you've ever seen this on I'm a Celebrity and Big Brother. They always do the family letters. Yeah. I roll my eyes. I'm such a miserable grump. I roll my eyes when I see this because I basically know what they're trying to do. Get you crying. So immediately I've gone from, oh my goodness me, I can't believe they're going to do these family letters. And being super cynical, about 2 minutes later, I'm like bawling my eyes out on the sofa. But it was an interesting format. It wasn't like the family send in the contestants a letter. It was, I think this might be something that happens in the military. I'm pretty sure that's what they're saying. You might be in a situation where literally everything's going off and you have to write your last potential letter. Oh my goodness me. And what would you, I was thinking then, what would you put in that letter? That's like the heaviest letter that you could ever write. And I wouldn't want to leave Esme and George, Lisa, like something really triggering. So you've got to really, apart from being a dad, I'll be like, don't forget to put the bins out on a Friday and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's like I say, pretty immediately reading these, listening to them read their letters out. I was gone within seconds. I don't know if your dogs have ever done this. Rex has had his bits chopped off, but then he gets a bit confused sometimes, and he tried to have sex with another dog when we were out on our walk. He didn't want to go conventional sex. He tried to have sex with the dog's face. And I don't know if that's a normal confusion with dogs that have their bits chopped off.
The conversation took such a big turn from I was feeling quite emotional about the letters to
I don't want to
suddenly
linger on that for too long. Moving on.
Well, I've got girl dogs, but they do like what the kids call the cha-cha-cha. They like to go around the kitchen enjoying each other's company. I think it's just an animal thing.
Yeah, Clarkson's Farm. There was a bit of confusion with.
Yeah, I don't think you need to take Rex to therapy. I think anything goes with a dog, doesn't it? Leg, arm, it's not bothered.
17 Valleys, goodness me, that would be a race. 7 Valleys news. Last week I said Robert wasn't too keen. Robbo's entered, so now it is me.
Yeah. When you said he wasn't keen, I thought, That's unlike Robbo. Like, I would have thought he'd be all over. And then he listened to the podcast and he was like, I want a piece of those.
I didn't give him the credit he deserves. Yeah, the Freddos make as well. So yeah, so far then, hopefully we can get some more people entered from Eastern. But so far, yeah, Robbo, me and Aaron. I'm still undecided. The challenge for me is the 13 because again, although I solved the problems with the nutrition, but it still took a hell of a lot longer than what I'd hoped. So I'd like to think I could do it a bit faster. But then I'm getting older, next year.
You are.
Ancient. I know it's hard to believe over on YouTube. Listeners.
Do not. Gary does not look like this in real life. He's got every single influencer light shining on
cosmetics
his face.
On as well.
And he's got those, like the Kardashians do like that makeup where they put like the brown sticks to make them look like you spend
cheekbones.
Hours.
Yeah,
contouring. It's all fake. Wash that face and actually underneath. It's frightening.
So we will see. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it'll evolve and move as the months go on. I've finally got my Ultra Olympus 6 review that has dropped over on YouTube. It's doing really well, actually. If people are interested, it's a long.
Are people interested?
There's 500 people who watched it. So yeah,
500 people
in a couple of days. That for me. That is, it's not
big.
Exactly gone viral.
Ding, ding.
But if anyone, the thing with the ultras are, for some people, it's just not their cup of tea because of that potential Achilles.
Zero
problem.
drop gives me.
Well, I'm fortunate I can get away with it, especially on the trails. It's a good point. I've never done a road race with zero drop shoes. Always been on the trails. But yeah, if anyone wants a long run, nothing fancy, kind of cushioned trail shoe, maybe check this out. If you ever you want to watch this, Better Call Saul, more TV. I'm really finding it hard to watch because I don't want to spoil it for people, but so if you've watched Breaking Bad, it's characters from Breaking Bad. So if you watch Breaking Bad, then a lot of Better Call Saul is spoiled because you've obviously seen what happens in Breaking Bad. But there's a point where it looks like he's got everything. He's got all his dreams have come true, and you just know his character is just this self-destructive personality. And I'm really struggling to watch it because he's doing
yourself
things.
In this.
Well, he goes to, there's lots of criminal activity going on, and I was just curious. Could you do if you were going to commit a crime? Do you think it would be a crime of passion?
Definitely.
Or would you?
Can you not see me, Gary? A crime of passion. She loved her Hoka trainers so much. She hit him over the head with them.
Or would it be like premeditated? Do you think you could actually think about it?
No. Mine would totally be the rage, and it would probably be because some child. I wouldn't be murdering a child, but it would be something that someone had made me miss my long run.
I'd probably erupt. It'd be Greg's and somebody bought the last pink jammy or something like that.
After long run, you get into the bakers, somebody takes. Yeah, I wouldn't have time. Sorry. If you need me to do any sort of crime, I don't have time to plan it. So it would just be if you did say, Eddie, I need to, we need to go and take this bank down. I'm happy to come along with you. I'll support you.
You can be the driver.
I just need to be told what to do and when to be there. I haven't got time to make any big criminal plans right now. I wouldn't mind a little bit of time in prison, lie down 23 hours a day in my cell with Netflix. I like porridge.
I don't think every prison's like that. You've been reading the Daily Mail, I think.
Can you imagine all the sleep? They'd be like, Eddie's very happy. Oh, she's still asleep.
You've got to do serious crime. You've had 1 hour solitary.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. No one talking to me, nothing. And then in that 1 hour, I would just turn myself into G.I. Jane. I'd just do pull-ups and sit-ups. Because I'm only eating porridge, I'd be absolutely ripped. But it's only for 2 or 3 days, and then they let me out. They realise
it'd be like celebrity SAS, celebrity prison. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, and then just the hotties, the soldiers from Celebrity SAS, they just come in and put me with a hood. Oh my god, this is going.
Do you think if you're off the radar, I think everybody's got a big crime in them, and you go unnoticed?
I'd worry about it. I worry about everything deeply.
Well, this is what. Now you probably reminded me why I triggered my conversation, because Saul or Jimmy commits a crime and it's so premeditated, and I'm just stressing out he could drop something, he could, put a fingerprint on something, and so that's I think why criminals is they can't resist. They have to go back to the scene of the crime It's something within them.
Hey, yeah.
For whatever they get from it, the endorphins, or they're just checking that they're not kind of cocked up with something that Jimmy does on this episode. I'm just thinking there's too much admin in that crime.
You've gone so deep into becoming a criminal. It's all right.
So
We've got the podcast now, Gary. You've gone straight now. You get back on the straight and narrow now.
I think it would be a crime of passion for me. I couldn't. Yeah, premeditated, not for me. Did you say on Facebook, we've gone from crime now to cheese and pickle?
Punishment to pickles.
Did you say 86? Right. So put that vote up there. I appreciate, I think someone was right. I think Max got his pickles confused. Maybe we should have been a bit more descriptive.
It was his disgust more in me when I said it, and it was his look of absolute disgust at and I took it personally that he was like, as a person, he was like, oh my God, no, Eddie, that is absolutely disgusting.
Well, 86% currently in favour of the classic cheese and pickle sandwich.
I have cheese and pickle sandwich at least, well, when I'm at home alone and it's just a normal working day, probably 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah. I reflected on it. I reflected on the week and I must have had 4 cheese and pickle sandwiches that
what
week.
Is there not to love? A tasty
we even got
cheddar.
posh chutney. Went to a local farm shop, bought some posh chutney.
Oh my God, that wouldn't last
Delicious.
a day. That's the problem, because the ratio of chutney to bread.
Do you see, sometimes if I'm feeling healthy, I'll not go with the butter, but the wet will be the chutney.
Oh yeah, I don't have butter. I don't really like butter. I have hummus.
Whoa, no way.
So I have a layer of hummus, then the cheese, and then some salad, and then the pickle. I'm fancy, Gary.
You wrecked that. You ruined that. Classic. It doesn't need messing about with. But yeah, since I just follow the science. So 86% of the population think it's good.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
We'll move on.
From Gary.
Max is dead to us now anyway. It's over. It's never going to happen.
Thanks, Beta Outdoor Sports, for supporting Brew the coaches. They distribute brands like Ultimate Direction, Knock Around Sunglasses, BV Sports, Catula Spikes, Instinct Running, and in Gingy Toe Socks. Hopefully a 2 de Helvellyn recce this week. So I think I will. Yeah, normally I wouldn't do a full kit test, but I might try and cram all that in and luckily be taking my Ultimate Direction hydration vest. I just hope the weather. I've checked. I don't think it is, but I hope the weather isn't filthy. But this week's question comes from Georgina Phillips. She'd like to know about anaerobic training. This week's Brew the Coaches question comes from Georgina Phillips. My question is about anaerobic training. My running bio, 2020, I was marathon fit. COVID stopped this from happening. And in 2021, I ran a 50K. The last 3 years, life has got in the way and running has been just for fun, stress relief and social, with a bit of cross country and a few local events along the way to join in our club league. I'm a steady mid-pack type of runner. I would one day like to get back to being marathon fit and take part in some 50K events. When going through my data of my runs on the Garmin Connect app, I have noticed the anaerobic effect of my run is always 0, even after an interval session, hill reps or plyometrics. My own answers for this are, I have a secret gear I haven't discovered. I wish I had a secret gear, my goodness me. I haven't discovered. And so I'm not working as hard as my Garmin thinks I am. 2, the little green LED on my watch may not be that accurate. Question: is anaerobic training important? And what is the reason why I never record any anaerobic effect from my run and training sessions? What should I do to add to my training to have an anaerobic effect? My takeaway is probably if you're doing a wrist-based heart rate check on your watch, that's probably not accurate. I'm pretty faithful if it's an arm optical. My experience is that pretty good, and the chest strap's pretty good too. So that's my first little takeaway. But then I'm also curious if the data that Georgina's getting on her runs suggests she is getting a heart rate in these zones, but then the watch is still giving her a 0 score. But again, anecdotally, interval sessions, hill reps, you're definitely going to be anaerobic. So yeah, that's fascinating. Russell, yeah, over to you.
Hi, Tina. Yes, you're going to love me and Trish on this one because I'm pretty sure we're on the same page. And the answer is very clearly that the little green LED in your watch may not be that accurate. It's a Garmin. It's a tiny little device on your wrist trying to explain to you the vast complexities of the human body with something like 40 different energy systems running through it. And it's just not up to the task. So I would very heavily discount anything your Garmin tells you. Mine tells me that I can't break 3 hours for a marathon, and we all know I can do that on any given Sunday. So that's how inaccurate mine is. And yours is probably just full of shit, if I can say that. It doesn't understand your body. It doesn't read it properly. And it telling you that is a really negative thing. And then you're actually being told off by your watch. It's just a ridiculous situation to find yourself in. All anaerobic means is without oxygen, you can't get the oxygen into your body quick enough to sustain the pace that you're working at. If you're on a hill rep and you run 100 meters as fast as you can up that hill, you are not going to be able to carry on indefinitely up that hill. So you are in your anaerobic zone. Hill reps are a great way of getting into anaerobic effort. Plyos, not so much. Your watch is going to be even worse at measuring plyos. It is built to measure running. At the end of the day, it thinks it can measure everything now, but it's obviously not even able to measure your running. So there's no way it's going to give you an accurate reflection of what you're doing with your plyos. But with anaerobic work, yes, you do need it. You need to train every energy system so that you don't find yourself in a plateau. If you only ever train aerobically, you're going to hit a plateau. You're going to find that your pace tops out and cruising pace starts to get a challenge. Whereas anaerobic is going to make sure that you keep moving the needle on all your energy systems, and it's going to help you keep improving. But no, to the watch telling you off, it's just a negative, silly little machine. Go off feel. All the best runners in the world happen to live in one tiny part of the world called East Africa. And I can guarantee you they are not listening to their Garmin, and they're pretty fast, pretty quick runners, and they go off feel for yourself. If you know you can't keep this up for much longer, another maybe 100 meters, and then you're going to be completely spent. You're in your anaerobic zone. You don't need your watch to tell you that. Would be my advice. And I'm pretty sure will be Trish's advice too.
Yeah, I completely agree with Russell there. I mean, the only thing I would say to you is RPE, rate of perceived exertion. So 100% focus on feel. If you're doing interval sessions, you will be going and you're working hard, you will be going into anaerobic. So that's 100% a given. It's super important that you do anaerobic training in your program, because it's the only way you're going to consistently improve. You're going to keep pushing your fitness forward. And if you've ever sprinted or got towards the end of a race and sprinted to the finish, when you see athletes absolutely hurtling down the finish line, that's their anaerobic training kicking in. You absolutely need that for a sprint finish and to stay strong throughout the last, the last little bit of your race. You've got to do it to continue to find improvements. So it sounds like you're doing it for sure. I would say another key thing with running and any type of training is to trust yourself. You've got to learn to trust yourself particularly when you're doing ultras. It's super important, because ultimately if you don't trust how you feel, it's going to really make things difficult for you the further you go on in difficult events. So I would say just Garmin's great. I love it. I love the morning report. I love all that stuff. I find the stats really interesting and fun and fascinating, and I love sharing it with my mates. Do I look at it religiously to shape my training? Not really. I think it's a good tool at the end of the day, but there's lots of other tools out there. None of those should take precedence over how you feel yourself when you're running. You should be able to trust that how you feel. So if you are running a hill rep, a 1 minute, 2 minute hill rep, and you are absolutely hanging out and you can barely breathe, you are in your anaerobic.
Is there a metric? Is there one word answers? Is that?
Yeah. There's loads of great things like that. I mean, I some of the things I say to my athletes are, you should be able. So for me, a good way to know if you're running very easy is nasal breathing. I'm a big fan of that, and you don't have to do it all the time. You could just do, have a check in if you think you might be pushing a bit fast. take a few nasal breaths if it's easy, or you're air hungry, you're going too fast. Another way is to be able to have an easy conversation, but particularly for like anaerobic, you're talking one word answers. So when you're doing that hill rep or you're doing that interval session, it's a one word answer. You can't have a conversation. It's a yes, it's a no. I feel a little bit like I might die. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it. Those are the kind of feelings and thoughts that will be in your head when you're doing that kind of session. So I definitely think you're doing those sessions. I would just pay less attention to your watch and trust yourself, because it sounds like you're doing a good job.
I do run to heart rate. So I'm going to kind of contradict basically how I do all my training. But it's really hard. You know, they have this old-fashioned metric, 220 minus your age.
Yeah,
and that just does not apply to everybody. So if you're using that as your baseline, then all of your data from then on in is out. So like Trish said, with that perceived effort, that really fits in with kind of real world training much more. But yeah, like I say, that's not how I train.
And there's lots of pluses to training with heart rate. I definitely say, again, it's another tool. But if you don't know what your max heart rate is, and you're then getting in the guess zone. So that only really works if you really know what your max heart rate is, and you have to, and there's tests you can do on your watch and stuff to kind of ascertain that and get a rough idea. But the other thing to remember as well is that sometimes you just can't hit those high heart rates. So if you're having like I've just spent the last week in New Zealand, I'm really tired and I'm single parenting at the moment as well, right? So I don't have the mental energy to do a hard session. So I'm probably not going to hit that heart rate. Even though I could still go out and I could try and push it, but there's other reasons that, again, you need to listen to your body. If you're not going to hit that, if you're struggling to hit that high heart rate, that's your body telling you that it's not ready for that session. It's not the right session for you, and maybe to do an easier one. So heart rate sessions are a great tool. But again, I would say 100% go back to feel as the absolute, the thing that balances everything.
Breathe and believe. Awesome. Oh, good luck, Georgina.
Thanks, Russell and Trish, for your thoughts. Hope that helps, Georgina. If people are wondering where my voice is on Brew with the Coaches, they're missing the voice of reason, isn't it? Often against Russell and Trish's absolutely outrageous recommendations. Very kindly, you all recorded without me because last week was absolutely mental. And so for the next few Brew with the Coaches, I'm not there, but don't worry, dear listeners, I shall be back. And I think you probably don't need me anyway for that anyway. You guys
it's definitely not the same without you, Eddie.
Stop it. If you have a question for our coaches and you're a patron, then email hello@tntrails.com. Don't forget to pop the words Brew with the Coaches in the subject, or it may get lost in the mailbox of love.
Thanks, X Miles, the one-stop kit and nutrition shop, for sponsoring our main interview. And don't forget, patrons can receive 10% off over at www.xmiles.co.uk. This week, we catch up with Andrea Harwood after she completed the Dragon's Back race. Andrea has had a 4-year, you've heard that right, a 4-year relationship with this event. So it was awesome to see her cross the line in Cardiff. This week, we are joined by Andrea Harwood, a tent mate of mine, Dragon's Back Race 2023.
No, before we start, Andrea, did you get a close-up of the red short?
Well, the men's side and the women's side kept quite separate, actually. So, I mean, if I had seen the red shorts, I would have just been, I don't know, floored. It probably could have changed the course of my week.
Your life, Andrea. It could have changed the course of your life. So did Gary not try and sneak into the ladies' side? I can't imagine there wasn't a bit
goodness me.
It was probably safer on the men's side, I would have thought. There was a lot going on. We had Trish screaming in the middle of the night with her feet, all sorts on our side.
I remember Trish telling other people off because they were talking too loud. That was hilarious on day one. I thought it was Robyn actually being super bossy, but no, it was Trish.
Can I hold my hands up and say I am the one who took Gary's last paracetamol? Isn't it true, Gary? Day 6, I was in desperate pain cave and he came to my rescue.
I remember that. Yeah, but somebody paid it forward though. I did get a paracetamol off somebody else. So Sally Vincella. Yeah, I remember that. My goodness me, yeah.
God, I didn't realise it was the drug den of the Dragon's Back, your tent.
2024 has been an awesome year of running for you, Andrea. Some highlights include GB Ultras, 105k at Brecon Beacon Ultra, ladies champ, North Downs Way 50. I'm sure I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd modified your backpack and tea and trail snood. You had some chafing, is that correct? I'm sure I saw pictures of you. And then completing the full Dragon's Back race after a 4-year relationship with it. Also, we can see you doing Canicross too.
Well, it's something I really want to get into. I've just entered another Canicross race, just entered last night. It's for November because my sights are set on a Canicross Ultra.
Oh.
Sign me up.
Well, it's in March in Wales, and I'm totally not fazed by the running, but the prospect of camping with my dog in Wales in March, that's proper freaking me out. So I'm doing my research now about what kit I might need.
Keep me updated.
Yeah.
What sort of dog do you have, Andrea?
I have a failed prison spaniel.
Can we reframe? I'm going to ask that question again, and can we start it with a word that's not begins with F? What sort of dog do you have, Andrea?
A really energetic one, Eddie. He just loves to run.
But he didn't quite, shall we whisper? He didn't quite make it.
He didn't make it because he's ball obsessed. He chases balls and he steals balls. And a week after I came back from Dragon's Back on codeine for my injuries, the dog had to be cut open and have a bit of a tennis ball removed. And he too was on codeine. So we were on a joint recovery. It was quite good.
Did you get mixed up with the tablets? You were like, what? My mum's done that. I'm sure my mum's taken the dog's wormer tablet by mistake. But like, which is the dog's codeine? Which is my hope? Yeah, but not give them your codeine because they'll imagine that's really strong. Oh, wow. Okay, this is exciting. Right.
Is it like a stage race? So you run, camp?
No, it's just you can do a 30 mile or a 40 mile. So as a beginner in Canicross, I'm going to go in for the 30 mile. We've done a couple of 10Ks. We've done quite well. I've come away with a couple of little trophies. But I think the mountains and the camping element and 30 miles, that's all quite a few new factors.
And the spaniel not being able to pace itself in any way. Let's not forget that. My biggest thing with Canicross, I love it. Lindy's very good. She's very small. Pointer, so she's not a particularly big rocket in front of me, but the downhill is terrifying.
Yes,
like I can't run downhill with her pulling me. I'm just like can't let my legs go. I just am like, oh no, this is horrible feeling that it feels like I'm going to fall over.
Yeah, have you got to understand any commands yet? Any words?
Twat.
Is there special Canicross commands though, as opposed to just non?
We did a whole podcast on it, Gary.
Oh goodness me, that was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? Okay.
I've done nothing because I basically use my Canicross harness for when I can't let her off the lead because there's sheep.
I did help out at the Great Lakeland 3-Day this year, and there were 70 dogs booked in. Like, honestly, I was just like, what is this going to be like? It's going to be total chaos. But they were so well behaved. And I was really impressed. I was looking around, like kind of all the kit people had. I thought, yeah, I'm going to get into this. This sounds good.
Because Gary and I were signed up for that, and I'm pretty sure I signed up Lindy too. This could
Did
be.
you? I like it when dogs are naughty though, because
makes you feel better.
Yeah, it wouldn't be great in a social situation like that. So when I see other naughty dogs, it makes me feel okay about Rex. So if they're all well behaved, I don't want to take little Rexy.
Yeah, but they're all knackered probably if they've run 30 miles.
True,
Lindy'd be the best behaved dog as well.
Anyway, need to get back on track. Andrea, yes, we ask all our guests, where are you? It's dark, so you can't really see out your window. But if it was light, what would be the view from your window? Oh, maybe too early to go for a run. But yeah, ask it anyway. Have you been for a run today?
All right. So out of my window, I was having a little look earlier because I knew you were going to ask me. I can actually see some palm trees because I live right on the south coast. So that feels quite exotic. I can't quite see the sea, but I'm really close to the sea.
Can you smell it?
I can sometimes hear it, Eddie, which is wonderful. It's so nice.
Oh,
I did have a little walk by the sea sea this morning, Gary. Walking's as far as I've got, but I try and go and see the sea every day because it's so calming.
Whereabouts on the south coast are you, Andrea?
I am half an hour to the east end of the Downs. So within half an hour, I can be up Beachy Head.
Amazing. You haven't fancied dipping your toes into the sea for a bit of recovery?
I don't really like being cold. I've had plenty of nice warm baths in Epsom salt.
I hear you. I'm all with you, sister.
Touched on it there, but what is local running like? Eddie and I, we're banging on your door. We've got our trail shoes. Where are you going to take us? Local highlights.
Oh, I'm going to take you straight up on the South Downs. It's wonderful. Eddie's done some running up there. So, yeah, that's where I cut my teeth on ultras, really. We've got a lot of rolling hills. We've got chalk cliffs on the Seven Sisters. It's wonderful looking out to sea. And then we've got some good forests as well. So, yeah, really nice. And there's loads of events. So this year I've been starting to get involved a bit more in volunteering and sweeping and laying the course and stuff like that. So that's really fun.
Have you done Downs Link?
I haven't done Downs Link in Ultra.
That's a good one. But you probably have one every weekend that you could do where you are, don't you?
Downs Link's coming up this weekend.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where are we? October. Oh, and then not long to Beachy Head Marathon.
That's right. Yeah, I've done Beachy Head. Yeah, I've done South Downs 50, North Downs 50, North Downs 100. So all those kind of centurion.
South Downs Way 100 in your future?
Sure, because I kind of more taken with the mountains now.
Oh, South Downs aren't good enough for you now.
Oh, no. But yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a trek over to Wales, but it's just so awe-inspiring, those rugged mountains, that rough terrain, and just the big wide open spaces. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I love the coast. I'm with you there. Unfortunately, I live, or maybe not as close as you. I live about 6 miles away from the coast. But yeah, every weekend I get the calling for the mountains.
You get the calling for the ice cream. Let's not pretend you get.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Freddos are my food of choice at the moment. How is recovery going? What with 4 weeks out, body feeling okay? How are the feet? I remember my feet were a mess. You're going to tell me yours are sensational, aren't you?
Well, this year, they're honestly so different. Last year, I lost 4 toenails. So that was a bit of a disaster. And I had horrible blisters. I had one really bad one on the sole of my foot last year, which made it really difficult to walk. But I made lots of changes to the foot routine. So that worked really well. So, yeah, nothing to report on the foot front. Really, really pleased with that. My major problem this year my only problem has been the ligament that goes up the, what's it called? Ant-tib?
Yeah.
Over the foot, up the ankle,
yeah,
the shin. So it started hurting on day 3. By the end of day 4, it was agony. And then I declared I was going to be the first person to hop across the entire length of the Brecon Beacons on day 5. End of day 5, I was like, there's no way I'm starting day 6. So it just got progressively worse as the week went on.
How do you manage that? Because I think I had something similar, but luckily for me, it was like day 5 and probably day 6 that came on. If there was a day 7, I don't think I could have made it. How did you manage that then from when it started?
Well, I mentioned it. So having been involved with Dragons Back for 4 years now, it's amazing how many people you know and who come back. And so I mentioned it to one of the medics and he was like, oh, don't let that get any worse. So I went along to see the medics. And
thanks.
They're so great. I mean, how am I going to avoid that getting worse when I've still got hundreds of miles to go? But I went along and they taped it up. They did a little inspection to see whether it was affecting the bone. And when it's not affecting the bone, they're like, okay, carry on. So it got taped up and that was it. Off you go.
Did the tape help?
Well, I'm not sure if it did help or not, but I carried on. So without the tape, it probably would have been unmanageable. But one night I had it all wrapped in this blue bandage and elevated. So I think that probably helped. By the last morning, I had to use my poles to get from the tent to the med tent. I couldn't even walk like 20 meters.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, this is a disaster.
And then you ran for how many miles? My goodness me. And what did you do different with your feet? I know the weather was completely different, so it's not comparing apples with apples, but yeah, then if your feet were so good this year, what was the things you changed?
Well, the thing is, Gary, it was like dry last year and wet this year, so you would have thought your feet were worse. But last year, I treated myself to a whole new set of socks, thinking that they were going to be like the answer. So I got some cushioned trail socks, but they proved to be disastrous because they just held all the water. So this year, I returned back to my trusty old Innovate socks, and I'd been watching what everyone else was doing. So when I got into the support point, I put trench cream on in the morning. When I got into the support point at lunchtime, because my main goal this year was to finish, I wasn't bothered about time. So I took it easy. I had a bit of rest at the support points. I would take my socks and shoes off, and I would put talcum powder all over my feet and let them air whilst I was having my lunch. And then I'd put a nice clean pair of socks on, and off I'd go again.
Fantastic.
So like they got a second beginning for the afternoon. And then in the evening, I'd clean them all up, more talc, and then flip-flops. So I ditched the Crocs. Last year, our tent was all about Crocs, weren't we?
Correct.
This year, I went for flip-flops, despite the campsite being an absolute quagmire. So the feet had loads of chance to breathe. And it worked really well.
Oh, fantastic. And I've not asked this to anybody actually, but did last year again, we had the grace, they stopped the clock for 30 minutes at the support point. That wasn't the case this year.
No, that wasn't the case this year.
Easy your year.
Yeah, the 2023.
Oh, no, it certainly wasn't. It was such a scorcher. Honestly, it was so different this year.
Oh, I did see some pictures of it, and was every night a quagmire, or was there some days you had a bit of grace?
It got worse as the week went on, but it was probably only day 2 or 3 that they put up the sign, "Welcome to Camp Quagmire."
Okay. Well, as much or as little as you want to share, but who is Andrea Harwood, and how did you get into trail and ultra running?
Well, I'm a mum of 4. My kids.
Oh,
I know, Eddie, I know. I listen to you on Tea and Charles as much for parenting advice as I do for running advice.
No, not parenting advice, parenting comparison.
I can relate. So
Relate.
11, 13, 15 and 17 are my kids.
Oh, gosh.
I'm living with 4 adolescents.
You are. Tell us all about that. Make me feel good about that.
Oh, well, my youngest has just started secondary school, and that's proved quite a transition for her. We've had lost planners. We've had forgotten German books. She can't get the ingredients together for her cooking lesson. Today she's had a letter home about a mobile phone. So I've got a BMXer. He's been in A&E this week. He's got a lacerated elbow, but he's forever out doing giant jumps, and I drive him around the country to do backflips and things like that. I've got one who's just concentrating on getting ready for her GCSEs. And then my top one, he's learning to drive. And just started a college placement in a surveyor's firm. So he's feeling very professional.
He's adulting hard now. He's probably more adult than you, honestly.
I think he feels quite scared to enter the adult world. He's kind of likes a bit of being a kid. But when he put his shirt on, he was like, this is good. This feels good. And then the first task when he got into the office, they gave him a box and said, build your own desk. I would have fallen at the first hurdle. I would not have managed that, but he did it.
I'd love that.
It's quite a good test, isn't it, for your new employee? I mean, he's only going in once a week and he's not getting paid. It's part of a college thing, but I thought that was quite clever of them.
I'd just use the box.
I'd have sat on the floor.
So 4 kids, how on earth have you fitted in running with those 4 kids? People will be
I'm not trained.
Inspired.
I do think, how did I do it? Where did the time come from for all that training? And I remember one time, I think I heard Simon Roberts say something about, it might have been Russell, your training has to be in double figures, the number of hours you put in to try, an expedition, like a race like this, in terms of how much you put in per week. But there's no way I managed that every week. And I think I came to adopt the kind of motto, like, do what you can, where you can, with what you've got. And that's what I tried to do. When I came to the actual event on day 2 in particular, I think that was one of my lowest moments. And it's rough, and they're long climbs. In the South Downs, we can't replicate that kind of like up.
Not that, and that terrain as well.
And the terrain. So here I was telling myself, what are you doing? You're a middle-aged woman, you got a desk job, you got short legs, you don't even go to the gym. What are you doing here?
You don't go to the gym?
I hate it. I just want to be out. I run to be outdoors. I don't even consider myself a runner. I would think of myself sort of like Mrs. Tigglewinkle or like Mrs. Tittlemouse from Beatrix Potter, just kind of scuttling or scurrying along.
Well, it's a very efficient scuttling thing, because you manage 236 miles and 58,000 feet of vert, scuttling along with your laundry and your I don't know. Tell me more about this 4-year relate. I didn't realize it was such a long-term 4-year relationship with the Dragon's Back. Where did it start?
It started because a friend of mine said that she was off to volunteer at this thing called Dragon's Back, and I'm like, what is that? Who does that? And then that was it. I was like, I've got to find out more about this. So I said, right, well, I'm going to go and volunteer and have a look. And I literally went along to just find out more about who can possibly spend 6 days running an ultramarathon every day and cover the length of a whole country.
But you were in the ultra world already, so you knew some of these crazy loons.
I mean, in my little running club, there's probably, at that time, there was only a few who did long distances like that. But since then, the last 4 years, more and more have started doing 50K,
Stinking rats,
miles, heading to the mountains. So it is catching, isn't it?
Unfortunately, it's highly contagious. And there's only one answer, is more races, more races. So you volunteered on the first year. And did you think then, I want a piece of this, I want to do this?
Well, so I was just looking in that first time, what's this all about?
I like it.
And then I thought, maybe I could have a go at this. It's just amazing as a volunteer. Area events look after you so well. And so I got some lovely kit as a result of volunteering, and race credit, which was valid for 2 years. Well, I couldn't do it the next year because I was heading off to do a big row. So I thought, right, I've got 2 years to get prepared.
So many questions. Going on the Dragon's back.
So the first thing I did was bought myself a watch that could have a map on it, because I didn't have one of those at that point. And I'm a woman of meager means, having 4 children to support. So I looked on the internet and I found one, a Garmin, in Argos, but I had to go to Dagenham in Essex for it. So I was in London, so I trekked off to Dagenham and got myself a watch so I could take maps. And then I convinced my husband to come with me to Wales, and we did half a Dragon's Back day per day for 4 days. And I was just testing, could I follow the line on the map?
Testing your relationship. Dragon's Back.
Testing everything, testing my ability to follow the line on the watch, testing like, do I actually enjoy this? And because I thought I will enjoy day 1 and 2 in the mountains, but after that, will it get a bit boring? But no, it absolutely does not get boring. And honestly, 2023, day 4, I literally cried with happiness when I came into the camp. It felt like you'd been on top of the world.
Yeah.
Honestly, just the spaces, the red kites flying above you. And some of those valleys, they're so isolated. I just would never have gone there had it not been for that race. So I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I really, really want to do it. So that was after my first volunteering. So I thought, right, I'm going to go back and volunteer again. And this time I'm going to go with a view to gaining as much insight as I possibly can. So I've got that game face on now, really looking to learn. And I thought, I did all the blowing up of the blue tents in the first year. I thought, right, I'm going to try and get promoted. Guess what? They put me in the second year. Toilet signs.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
putting up the signs in the Portaloos, how to wee and how not to wee, and what colour your wee needs to be. Anyway, it didn't matter because I really wanted to be there, and I did learn loads. So it was same brilliant people came back. So Trish was there again, Zoe was there, Zoe Murphy. So we just had such a laugh, so much fun. Then the other thing that I thought that I kind of learned was on that starting line and that registration at the beginning, you don't know. Of all the people who were there, probably only about a third are going to finish it. And actually, you can't tell by looking. You know, it's not necessarily the ones with the longest legs or the strongest ones or the ones with the best kit. I think a lot of it's in your head.
I love that. The last 2 start lines I've stood on, and I thought, I know I'm going to finish. There's no getting out of this. And then you look around, you're like, who's with me? Who's with me?
Someone messaged me the other day about 13 Valleys Ultra, and I think it was a 65% DNF rate. So these races, my goodness me, just to get to the finish, just to complete, the odds, my goodness me, the odds are stacked against you. It's super scary.
Yeah, but I tell you what, Gary, to get to the start line, the odds are stacked against you. So many things can go wrong, you know, and I think I was tearful on the start line that I'd actually made it.
Talk us a little bit about 2023 then. What was the story? How did that unfold?
Well, I was so glad to be there, and I absolutely loved it because I love the sunshine and I love the heat, and the views were amazing. You could see so far and the colours were just so beautiful. It was just brilliant. But I think it was attributable to the heat. I can't imagine what else it could be. But I got a urine infection. I'm not prone to getting them at all. And so by the end of the first day, I was like, it feels a bit weird. Second day lunchtime, I went up to the nurse at the support point. And I was like, I think I'm getting a urine infection. She said, you're going to need antibiotics. And I don't know if we've got them. So if we haven't, that might be it. And I was like, no, I can't end now. I'm having such a good time. But I went to the med tent. Well, that afternoon, it really came on strong. I was weeing blood. Oh my goodness. I kept stopping on the side of the trail. You know, like sometimes there's no place to hide. And second day, I was coming down this like sort of fire track through the forest, and there was a guy behind me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I've got a urine infection. He said, I'm a doctor. And it was like, oh, you know, these people understand. And I got into camp, and Tuesday evening, that was second day, there's an opportunity to have a shower, which was amazing. So I headed off to the shower and then spent the rest of the evening in the med tent, and they were brilliant. So they gave me antibiotics.
Oh, phew.
But it all started to fall apart because I'd spent the whole evening dealing with that and not tending to my camp admin, which is a massive part of Dragon's Back Race. Gary, you'll back me up on that one, isn't it? They're going to be so on it with the organisation. And that's why I think mums will do really well, parents will do really well, because if you're used to running a household, you can juggle like a million things. All you've got to look after is yourself for a week. So when Lisa Watson's, I heard her say, you know, it's like a running holiday. What's not to like? You get cooked for, you know, everyone looks after you. There is a little element of that. You've literally only got to think about yourself. You haven't got to like make any packed lunches. You haven't got to drop anybody off anywhere. The only wash it up you do is one spoon and one plate all week. So that's great. But I didn't fully charge my watch. And the next day I got up and I took my antibiotic on an empty stomach, which made me really nauseous. Spent over an hour in the med tent with a foil blanket trying to keep my breakfast down, because breakfast is not just breakfast, it's like your fuel, isn't it? Yeah. You put the petrol in the engine. But 100 metres after leaving camp, I lost the whole lot. So I was on the back foot then. Oh, dear. I hadn't got very far before Robyn passed me. I was vomiting again in a field. And then...
she must have been so worried about you.
Oh, she was. Oh, she was so sweet. And then my watch ran out. And then I had like, right, got to get the Avenza app open on the phone. Am I going left? Am I going right? And I was like, on my own, stood on the side of a mountain, all confused. And I missed the cutoff at the water point by 20 minutes. So partially attributable to the infection, but partially attributable to poor camp admin. Important lesson learned. So I was gutted, but I knew that actually I was really quite ill. So I spent that afternoon in the shade of a tree watching everybody come in to the day 3 support point. And oh my goodness, they looked like zombies. But they were all stocked up with their snacks from Co-op. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to be back and I'm going to be doing this again and nothing's going to be. So that Wednesday afternoon was enough time for that medicine to kick in. And I was drinking loads of water. And then that was it. Day 4, 5, 6. Smashed the whole lot, no bother at all.
Full Dragon days, those 4, 5, 6.
Full Dragon days. And I was just so pleased that my body had recovered, you know, and sort of bounced back. And it made it all the more better that I was still there. You know, I felt it's almost harder to come back from that and to have the resilience to say, well, I'm going to tough it out and carry on, even though I'm only, even though I'm a hatchling now. I'd come to be a dragon, now I'm a hatchling. Actually, I love my little hatchling. And I remember the work that went into getting it, and I feel really proud. And like when Shane says at the registration, if things don't go your way and you end up dropping down to the hatchling, please don't go home. Please stay with us for the rest of the week. And it's a massive adventure.
I think especially for completing it in 2024, that hatchling, it's just all part of the story. I love it. Absolutely love it.
What's really interesting, Gary, is that going back this year, I met 2 other guys who'd also done 5.5 days last year. Yes, we became the little Dragon Revenge Club. We were all like extra to the end.
Were you a bit scared though, going back, knowing the challenge ahead?
Yeah, totally scared, because there are so many curveballs that can come in. So this row that I mentioned there, Eddie, I set off with a team of 4 other women, 5 of us, to try and get a world record, rowing non-stop and continuous around Great Britain. And what happened was, after 500 miles in the middle of the Irish Sea, a massive storm came up from the Atlantic and we had to be rescued by the RNLI and towed back to Wales 6 hours. So we had put a lot of training into that. We felt really devastated that we didn't make it. At first, it really seemed like a failure. It was only one of my teammates who sort of helped me reframe that and get a different perspective and think about what we did do, not what we didn't. Because we raised so...
You got rescued by the RNLI. That's my kid's dreams.
We could have been on, like, what is that, Surviving at Sea? Or something.
Saving Lives at Sea. It's a family absolute favourite.
So that felt like a failure. Eventually, I could kind of reframe that and think
Yeah.
about what we had done. Now every time I'm up on the downs, I look out at the wind farm and think I rode past there. Literally anywhere on the south coast, I can say I rode past there, which is such an amazing thing to be able to say. But taking on a massive other challenge was always like, oh my goodness, what if I fail again? But you got to go for it.
I don't like the use of this word fail in this context because I can't see any failure. A failure to me is when you meet a challenge and you walk away from it because you think you can't do it. But I think if you try something and you don't achieve it, that's not a failure at all. That's going for it. He's gone for it. And it might not come off, but that's not a failure. That's incredible. And the same on the Dragon's Back, to pull back with a UTI, and anyone that's had one, they make you feel so ill. Your whole body goes into like a fight against that. To then take the antibiotics and come back and do 3 days and pull yourself back from that. God, I would say those were two pretty big wins to me. And I think everybody that's listening and running along and listening now will be nodding.
Day one. So day one, for people who don't know, it's probably the biggest vert per miles of all of the days. It's not the biggest day, but how were you feeling? Did you have a plan, any tactics? And did it go to plan?
Day one started in the castle, and it's just such an amazing atmosphere. It's pre-dawn, totally dark. You've got loads of people lining the walls. Flags are there. So it's more and more international, this event, which is really exciting. I mean, I ran with Americans and a few Norwegians this time, which was, really, really interesting to talk to them about their mountains. And as we were going across Crib Goch, I was with a Norwegian and he said, race organisers, we've got ridges like this. Race organisers in our country aren't allowed to send participants over a ridge like this anymore. So that was interesting.
Well, Max said the same thing. He couldn't believe that that you guys were allowed to go over terrain like that unaccompanied.
Yeah, but I have to say I took it a bit more cautiously than I did when I've done previously. I've been over there a few times. This time it was kind of wet, greasy. Okay. And I just wanted to play it a little bit safe. As I said, getting to the end is what I really wanted. I really wanted that dragon. So I thought, got to play the long game. It is such a big week. Just take it steady.
Had you changed your training at all going in, or did you do like the same thing as you did 2023?
2023, I had a coach and did loads and loads of recce's. So I spent loads of time over in Wales with Robyn and Zoe and Trish. Having loads and loads of fun. Because of the distance from where I live, I did have to go less frequently this year. But I had to do things like super early, stopping off on my commute to do hill reps on the downs. So up and down, up and down, up and down. I did lots of sort of work at home. So I may not go to the gym, but I do loads of yoga, which I discovered on a little mountain skills weekend I did maybe about 6 years ago. Like, it's so interesting. I went to learn about mountain skills. The two big things that came away with were yoga and using poles. So I use poles like anytime I'm in the mountains, just because for stability and to take the kind of weight and pressure off my knees and hips. I think it helps me loads. I think my weak point would be my ankles. So I just feel a lot safer when I've got my poles. Mm-hmm. They really help loads.
What about your yoga? Who are you? Are you an Adrienne girl?
She's my bestie, Eddie.
No, she's mine.
No.
I think we'll have to share her.
Did you see her this morning? Have you been with her today?
She has not touched me today. I have done my yoga today, but quite often now I do my own practice because she set me free. I don't often get to do her videos. She's given me the love. And
I need her in my life. Yeah. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then there's loads of videos. So, even not having a coach, last year, a friend of mine who's predominantly a triathlete but has also done some ultras coached me. And it was so helpful because she understood me and she knew what my life was like. And that was kind of like the key criteria for me. This year I was managing my own, but there's loads. Marcus Scott and his 5 basic strength training exercises for ultra runners online, a bodyweight warrior, hip mobility, fitness blender, arms workout for pulse.
I love fitness blender. Linda?
Yeah, so just loads of stuff online. And then obviously, I think what really helped this year was I already had that familiarity with the room. And I just knew what was coming up. It astounds me when I see people who can just pitch up and have never been there before. And it's just incredible.
Hands up. Guilty.
I think it takes a certain sort of arrogance, really, Andrea, to just turn up,
smug,
and
cocky,
download the GPX, and off they go.
Just follow people, basically.
So did you? I'm not in that category.
No, I can never do that. So, did you have any dramas during the week? Was it smooth sailing? Was there highs? Was there lows?
Day 2 was my low when I was telling myself I had no right to be there.
Now, where has this come from? Because we're a hatchling, we've rowed.
I think comparison can just ruin things for you, can't it? And looking around at other people, and I think, who am I? But actually, I kind of stuck my new headphones in my ears. And then my headphones, it's like, I'm not sure how to operate these. Press the button. I ended up accidentally calling my daughter. She's like, what have you called me for, Mum? Aren't you in the mountains? I'm like, oh, yeah, but I pressed the wrong button. And then I had a little chat with her because, of course, Dragon's Back falls the first week back of school, which is
terrible parenting there. That is terrible mothering.
That's 4 years in a row I've been away first week of school. It's really terrible. And my husband's a teacher. So for him, it's like, how can you leave me at the worst week of the year? So I had a little chat to her. And then when I hung up, the girl who was climbing behind me, she was like, oh, that was a nice distraction. It's like, yeah, it was. I wasn't intending to call her. So music really helps, doesn't it, when you're down in the dumps? I don't listen to Disney, Eddie, but...
okay, give me a playlist then. What's in your ears?
I'm not very knowledgeable about music. Earlier in the year, I was helping a lovely lady called Becky with her first ever 100 and discovered the Mood Booster playlist, which was brilliant. And there we just played out loud overnight on the South Downs Way. And we were coming through. She was so strong. I'm like, make way for the disco divas. And we were coming through, listening to all these real mood boosting tunes. In Dragon's Back, I saved my music till the afternoon as a sort of treat, second half of the day. And my earphones didn't last the whole half of the day, but just a couple of hours can make a real difference. Yeah, so that was a low point. And then day 6.
Day 6, in theory, if all's well, you can really take advantage of runnable trails and paths. But yeah, maybe not the case.
A lot more hard ground, isn't it? But I think with this ligament problem, Gary, the hard ground was part of the problem. Thankfully, I had road shoes for day 6, so nice and cushioned and bouncy and soft, which I'm sure made a massive difference. But by then, the pain was so bad. I had a serious stock of codeine for that day. And the only reason I set off on day 6 was because I looked at my phone and my husband was like, I'm bringing the girls to meet you at the end. And I had no expectation that they were coming at all. I knew my parents would be there, but not Dan and the 2 girls. So I was like, oh, I've got to set off. I've got to at least try. So I have no idea how I'm going to do 40 miles on this leg. I said to the mountain rescue team, you might have to rescue me today. And they said, we don't rescue people on the way to Cardiff. I said, well, you might have to make an exception for me. So off I set, and Robyn was outside the camp waiting, and she gave me this massive hug, and her hair it was so...
Oh, her hair's delicious, isn't
fresh. It? And we were so stinky. But she looked, I said, Robyn, my leg is so painful. She said, oh, that's just soft tissue damage. That'll heal. And I felt that was the go-ahead. So that's it. Off I set. I had no idea if I was going to make it. And at one point, a man on a checkpoint said, only 4 and a bit park runs to go. I thought, okay, 4 and a bit park runs, I can do that. I was living on the codeine, and it gave me about 90 minutes where the pain was only 5 out of 10 rather than 9 out of 10. So for those 90 minutes, I could move. And then the pain came back. And I thought, I can't take codeine every 90 minutes. So I had to space it out a little bit. But the bit waiting to take the next set of drugs was so hard. And I was in absolute agony. Coming into the support point, I was in absolute bits, crying. And they literally saw me at my lowest and the worst. And I think that's the thing about this race. You feel, at some points, you just feel invincible. I'm literally running the whole length of a country over every mountain range, but you're also your most vulnerable. I was the lowest probably I've ever been, such a mess. And they just kind of scoop you up in the support point. And I just needed a little bit of time, a little bit of space. I had a prawn sandwich that I bought from the co-op. Then I was able to take my next codeine and off I set again.
Are you looking at the clock though, Andrew? I'm curious. I know is it 10 o'clock cut off in Cardiff on the Sunday? Because of the speed that you're moving with your ligament damage, are you mindful of the time? Are you running scared?
Well, I kind of resolved the fact that my leg was so painful that if I didn't make it, it was okay. I would have twin hatchlings rather than a mummy and a baby, because I was literally giving it my all. I couldn't go any faster.
No.
As it happened, I got in at 7:45, which is quite reasonable. But
yeah.
for the first time in my life, I did have to chase cut-offs on the 5th day, which is the big Brecon Beacons day.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
I think people watching the dots were thinking that downhills would be easier, but in fact, downhills were so much harder. There are a lot of big downhills, Gary, you'll remember in that Brecon Beacons day. And coming into the support point, there's a massive, massive downhill. And I saw a lady ahead of me, and she was going down backwards. She just couldn't manage it forwards. And I thought, oh, maybe that's something I should try. But in the end, I went down on my bum. And that's
what Trish and I did. We went down on our bum. It was awesome. That's exactly how you go down.
Yeah. And I got in there with probably about an hour and it was an hour, like 45 minutes to spare when I left. And they had this whiteboard where they'd drawn on it the 4 big peaks between the support point and the water point. So I knew that the cutoff at the water point would be 6 o'clock, so 4 hours later. So I had a 4-hour window to do 4 peaks. So I really then started doing the chunking strategy, breaking it down. Okay, if I manage each peak within an hour, I'll be on time. So I set myself maybe 45 minutes to have a little gap, and off I'd go. And I made it, but I only made it with 15 minutes to spare, reaching the bottom of Penavan. And I'd had to push it hard to get down that last slope to reach there. And by the time I reached them, I couldn't speak. And I just stood there and they took my water bottles, they filled my water bottles. And having never kind of been in that position before, chasing those cutoffs, I'm like, okay, there's now another 4 hours where I have to go from here to the end. And I know there are some seriously big ups. And then when you get that final up, it's a really long. Remember, we were running quite together that point.
Yeah.
I had my cheese baguette with Trish, and off we set. And there's that long sort of ridge run plateau at the top before you have the final descent. Really steep escarpment coming down.
And if you've got the luxury of time, that is a beautiful place to run.
Yes. But again, for the first time, I found myself running in the dark. So last year, I managed to get in before dark every day. And this year, I got in every day except this day 5 because I was moving so slowly. I made it up Penavan, made it up the slopes, and then darkness was coming and rain was coming. So I put my rain jacket on, got my torch ready. I thought, I have no idea if this 4 hours that they've given us for this final section is generous or tight. I don't know whether there's a high likelihood I'll make it or whether it's like not really a hope in hell. So that's when I thought, right, okay, if I don't make it, I've given it my all. If I do make it, it's a miracle. So as we were reaching the last checkpoint, this man appeared over the hill and he went, 300 meters steep down, 500 meters across the field, then you'll hit the river. Gary, can you remember that river?
Oh my goodness me! Well, we shared some time there as well.
Last year, we were just arriving as the sun was just starting to set. The sky was just turning orange. And it was beautiful. So now I'm in the tipping rain. It's pouring it. It's 9:13. I looked at my watch and thought, okay, I've got 45 minutes. I'm going to make it. So I'm going to dial back the panic a little bit because I'm pretty confident I'm going to make it. But I'm going to take every minute I've got because I don't want to get worse. Hopefully, there's one more day to go. Yeah. So I slowed it right down. Again, I was on my bum coming down there. It was so muddy. There was hardly anybody left. You know, it varies so much throughout the week. In the mornings, there's like a queue of people, hundreds of people heading out, especially day 4 morning, which like in a queue heading off towards the big wind turbines. Day 4 afternoon, you're up high in the mist and there's no one. Anyway, so this day 5 evening, coming down, and I finished with 8 minutes. Just, oh my God.
Goodness, your poor husband.
8 minutes. Like my sister-in-law said, she was ringing my mum going, is she going to make it? Is she going to make it? And like one of the volunteers came out and said that you've been in like a black spot for your dot. It didn't move for 20 minutes and there was a lot of panic in camp about whether you were going to come back in. I was less panicked that evening because I knew I had time than I was the previous evening when my leg was hurting so much. I just came in tears. So day 4 is downhill, downhill, downhill on tarmac to reach the camp. And that was hurting so much. And the rain came really heavily that afternoon. And so I spent the last few kilometers making a plan how I was going to warm myself up and get myself back on an even keel when I got into camp. So they hand you a little drop bag when you get in. And in my drop bag, I had my protein shaker bottle from the lunchtime. So I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight, I'm going to avoid going to the tent, which is a bit of a trek, go straight with my protein shaker into the canteen where you get your food. And I get 2 big cupfuls of soup to warm me up, and I'm going to stand in the drying tent until I feel warmer. Well, Gary, you know how desperate I must have felt if I was willing to stand in that stinky old drying
Very
tent.
musky tent. Yeah, it's not very nice. It's not very pleasant.
And as it happened, I got there and I could hardly speak or move. So they escorted me and they supplied me with the soup, and I sat down and put my hat on, my gloves on, and warmed up. And then I got some chips. As you know, chips, such a reviver at the end of the day. But there's a lot of jeopardy involved in this race.
I'm absolutely exhausted just listening to you. We've sort of jumped around, but I want to bring you back now to when the last day, the codeine, by the way, we don't advocate to take that much codeine. This is Andrea's choice. She's an absolute lunatic, and that's what she chose to do. She's lived to tell the tale. But you've got 4.5 park runs to go, because I want you to talk us through how it felt to get to Cardiff Castle after those 4 years.
It was so pain. I was in so much pain, Eddie. Honestly,
you couldn't appreciate it. I know that my big finishes, the actual finish, is very underwhelming because you're so relieved to finish it. You're sort of a bit numbed, but it's probably now on reflection you can appreciate the finish.
There's a lot of flat path to finish that race. And as I was going along the path, I met a bunch of teenage girls, and I said to them, I've been running for 6 days. And they were like, what? It's like, I've been running it for 6 days and I'm near the finish. I said, are we close to the castle here? And they went, oh, yeah, you're really close. It was 10 to 7. I said, oh, do you think I could get in by 7? They were like, oh, yeah, you can get in by 7. Anyway, it took me almost another hour from there. Because I was moving fairly well.
Never trust a teenager. Come on. Mother of 4.
Terrible
no
intel.
Idea of distance. Anyway, so I was moving fairly well. I must have been in the last kilometre, and everyone was like getting ready for me to come in. And then like the drugs wore off, the pain came back, and I was like, oh no. So I had to then take more medicine and like wait for that to kick in before I could start moving again. So that slowed me down a little bit. But honestly, it was a relief to finish, just because of kind of the ordeal that I've been through. But actually, for me, it's about the journey. You know, the whole week is such an adventure. Yeah. Just to have that time, to have a body that can do that is such a privilege, really. And it's so much fun. So many amazing people that I've met over this. It's like a project, 4-year project come to an end.
Has it come to an end? Is that the end of your Dragon's Back?
I was actually wondering whether I might write a book.
Oh, that's giving me goosebumps.
I've sort of come up with a title. I mean, I don't know. I hope I can get it done. But I wondered about calling it Unfinished Business. Because this year, when we went to registration, they gave us these little lanyards with dragons on. And you got a red dragon if you were doing it and a green dragon if you're volunteering. It showed you every year you'd been involved. So I had 2 red dragons and 2 green dragons. But you looked around at some people, they had 7 green dragons. They'd been volunteering for 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, some people were back with their 3rd dragon, trying it for the 3rd time. And it just feels like an event that draws you back again and again. It's like this dragon's got power.
I can't think of another race like it where people keep going back, keep trying. I'm struggling now to think. But it's such a challenge. Like you said, it is such a treat to have a body that can propel you for 6 days through the mountains, and having a support structure that allows you to do it without stressing about what's going on at home too. Everything comes together, this big cocktail of love. Yeah,
codeine love.
Codeine love.
I think, Gary, that's a good point to mention. The amazing support structure on site in the community, in the camp, but also the love that you get from home through your dragon mail. Oh, there's messages to print out for you at the end of the day, and like, and we go, we're watching you, you're doing great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're a bit nervous sometimes. You're like, is there any dragon mail? And like hoping there is someone, worried there might be like two good luck message or even none.
That could be in the appendix of your book, or it could be like the start of each chapter, like a little like little bit. Oh my God.
I did think maybe I might title my book A Middle-Aged Mother's Guide to Completing the Dragon's Back. But I thought, well, there's only me and Trish and we've both done it. No one else would be interested in that.
It's quite a niche audience, that, yeah.
Yeah,
Signing up. I'm signing it up. I love it.
Yeah, how was the pain once you'd finished? All the adrenaline had left your body. Monday morning, Cardiff. What's the pain level? Is it like 11 out of 10?
I think because I didn't need to move anymore,
Yeah.
it didn't feel so bad. I had no mountains to climb. And, all I had to do was get to breakfast. And I managed it. So that was good. Like compared to last year, like my feet were so fine, so good. My muscles were fine. It was literally just this one ligament. And that sense of like satisfaction. I'd actually done it. Like honestly, on the evening of day 5, I was like, I can't go out tomorrow. And then even at the morning of day 6, got the message from Dan saying, we're coming to the end. And I was like, but I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Very canny of Dan, wasn't it, to do that? To go, I'm just going to go to the finish. She can't drop out because she's got to get to the finish because that's where we are.
I think his thinking was like, it looks like she's going to make it, so we'll go.
Yeah.
He had no idea.
I was giving him queued up. I was trying to make him.
Yeah, the depth of suffering I was in. But it took me 12 days to be able to walk down the stairs. So I was shuffling around for a bit. I wasn't able to do the dog walks, feeling a bit pathetic, really. But I've just tried to keep my leg up, iced it. I can go on ibuprofen when I came home, wasn't running anymore. They told me, Morag, the brilliant physio, she said, leave it 2 weeks and then you can go and see if your bone is fractured.
Yeah, because the swelling has gone down.
Yeah, she said it takes that long for it to appear. After 2 weeks, it's so much better. Day by day, in the second week, it just started getting better.
Kudos, Andrea, just for keep getting up. It's so easy sometimes. I don't know, you can turn around and feel sorry for yourself in the corner, but just to keep getting up and pushing forward. Yeah, serious.
Incredible.
It's crazy though, like, within 48 hours, you're thinking, oh, I'm absolutely still hurting. I can hardly walk. And yet I'm thinking about what next.
What's
and
next?
I have Eddie's voice in my ears. Do not enter any races yet.
I am the controller of the dopamine. And I say, you do not need the dopamine hit. Do not press enter.
Well, yeah, I've literally just done a race and I'm getting that. Facebook is seducing me. Yeah. Andrea, then come on, what is it? Can you spill the beans? What are you looking at?
Well, Canicross Ultra.
Yeah.
Wales in March. That's the next. So that's something new. That's a bit of a tangent going off out there. So lots to research on that. But I've just said I would like to volunteer at the Cape Wrath.
Oh, help us.
This...
Chapter 14. Dragon Back wasn't enough.
I
thought it was enough. It wasn't enough.
That might be volume 2.
2026, Cape Wrath.
That's the juicier version. It's the midnight version.
Okay, let's do the quick 5. I need to thank, I don't think he listens to the podcast, but Adam Buxton for some of these questions. I didn't copy them all, but I listened to his podcast the other day and I took inspiration from them. I'm not asked one of them because it was 100% inappropriate. Maybe we'll...
Oh, go on, tell us what it is.
I can't.
That's the one I want you to.
I'll be embarrassed.
It's that really. It's that bad.
It's very rude. Well, I'll maybe we will at the end of the questions because you'll have the context of the.
Andrea and I really want to know what it is.
No. I don't want to be asked any rude ones. I'd like to know what the question is.
Yeah, we'll just want to know what the question is. So we don't.
Okay.
We don't want to answer it.
Okay, Eddie and I are coming for a dinner party. We said we would bring the beverages and a pudding. What would be a good choice?
I love puddings, Gary. Any pudding that you turn up with, I'll be very grateful. But I do particularly love chocolate, though. So anything chocolatey would be yummy.
Okay.
Or a lemon tart would be nice. Anything, honestly, I'd be grateful. And like I said earlier, if somebody cooks for me, I'll just be so happy. I
didn't say we were going to cook.
Ooh, awkward. We're just bringing the drinks and a mess pudding. We're not cooking.
Well, we've had some booze, so we can't drive home, but you have a Dragon's Back race inflatable mattress going to waste in the cupboard. Now, I need a loo, middle-aged man, it's about 3 a.m. Is it appropriate for me to flush or not to flush? I'm not a monster. I'm not going to do a number 2. It's just a wee.
Gary, I live with teenagers. They don't flush day or night.
That's one of my morning jobs, Andrea. I go around the bathrooms flushing. I'm like, oh, dear Lord. How many times do you think we've shouted, Ash, you rebels?
I've stayed at people's houses though, and I just thought, oh, do I flush? Do I not flush?
Oh, you'd
There we go.
never, if you came to my house and didn't flush the toilet, Gary, you would be out on the street. You
Well, even at 3 in the
disgusting rat.
morning.
3 in the
I
morning.
always
you can
flush in the middle of
toilet.
the night at other people's houses.
Do
Oh,
you?
always.
Well, see, I'm glad I asked this question now. I've got some knowledge. Okay, I'm going to turn back time. What posters, when we're staying in your spare room, what posters?
Why are we staying in her room on this mattress together? I don't like this story at all.
Okay, I'll change it. As a teenage girl, Andrea, what posters would be on your bedroom wall?
Well, I look back now and I'm interested to think about why I had these type of posters on my wall, but I was really into like fast cars, Ferraris and Porsches. I know it seems
This
quite
is
strange.
taking a turn.
Yeah, but maybe it's the speed, the adrenaline, that sort of kick. I've never owned a fast car, and it's unlikely I ever will own a fast car, but that's what I was into then.
What car do you own, Andrea? Let's
Well, we have 2 vehicles in my house. My car is a very fuel-efficient car because I have to sometimes commute quite far for work. But my husband has now claimed our old VW Caravelle and converted it for his windsurfing. And when I saw him in the process of converting it, it's like, but that's a single bed. Where am I going to sleep? And he said, get your own van. In the next few years, my aim is with my BMXing son, who's only 13 now, but by the time he's 17, he and I can have a van to share. 50-50, he can take it out off on weekends for BMX trips, and I get to take it off to the hills.
Well, when you've got a New York Times bestseller, Andrea, you can do whatever you want with that money.
Well, Robyn's got a lovely little van called Doris, so I was closely inspecting Doris to see how I might have mine.
Oh, we're going to go back to accommodation questions. You're a busy mum. After our sleepover, what time are you kicking us? What time are you kicking us out in the morning?
Gary, honestly, you are welcome anytime, and you can stay as long as you like. I never know who's in my house at any time. People come, people go. They just let us our front door is rarely locked, so feel free, come anytime. But if you are around in the morning, well, we could go for a run.
Oh, we do that. We definitely. Do you know what? We'd sneak out. Gary would still be asleep, and we would sneak out without him because we're fed up of him. He's peed everywhere. He got a bit drunk. Things got inappropriate.
Eddie, are you familiar with the glitters? How they look like? It's a little bit like the moon, like with loads of big books, and it's all kind of.
Is that where you're taking me? Up the glitters.
Well, I do my glitters practice down on the coastal defences. I go rock hopping where there's great big signs that say danger of deep voids, but that's where I go and jump from rock to rock.
Let's go do that. That. My kids use those to backflip off. It's a really relaxing, enjoyable sport for everybody as they hurl themselves backwards into the rocky rocks. So we won't invite them either.
Last question. Every week we share this podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and you get to choose the music that we put to our Instagram story. What's it going to be, Andrea?
Well, I have put some thought into this as a podcast fan. And the song that I would like to choose, I don't even know who sings it, but it's that one that goes, I get knocked down, but I get up again.
You know who sings that? Podcast lover.
Chumbawamba, Boff Wally, been on the podcast.
Oh, look at that. Well, just because of what happened in 2023, where it was ruined in the middle. And I was really unwell. And it was and then I came back 4, 5, 6. I was like, wow, And I think whatever curveball comes in your way, whatever unexpected thing you find yourself facing, things are going to get better. And you can't give up. You should just keep plowing on.
Oh, I normally do a really eloquent close of the interview, don't I, Gary? But I just love that. I love what Andrea's words there. That I was thinking, Andrea, as you were talking, to reflect a bit on what you called failures. And I was thinking more that they were actually, and now you've mentioned the book as well, that they were you just got to signposts and they weren't the direction you wanted to go in. And the pull to the direction you wanted to go in was so strong, but you have to follow the sign and it took you a different direction. And often you don't want to go in that direction. But when you find yourself on that path and you settle into that path, each direction, every time that you've had one of these setbacks, they have set you onto something bigger and better. And what I promise you, the thousands and thousands of people that download this podcast, well, my dad, Robbo.
Lisa.
We'll be listening to this, Lisa. We'll be listening to this thinking, wow, like you don't need to be training double figures. Sorry, Russell, every day. You do what you do with what you can do. You're consistent. And if you do get knocked down, you get back up again. And so we give you from the podcast a heavy flex. We were involved in your journey. We're so happy to see it. Well, it's not completed because there's still some more stages to do, but huge kudos. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And we look forward greatly to volume 2.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's been so lovely talking to you.
Thanks, Andrea. Take care. Thanks for your time
Andrea.
tonight.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I loved having a catch up with Andrea, one of my Dragons back race tent mates. I say one of my tent mates, they invited me into their tent. So, yeah.
I can't,
grateful.
but do you think now you'd get invited in? But now they know the true you. They wouldn't let this dirty dog into their tent.
Crime of passion, never get in. But I loved when Andrea has described her foot maintenance too, because that's gold dust. There could be somebody out there who's like, oh, goodness me, every time I do a race, my feet get shredded. Just take a leaf out Andrea's book.
In everyday life, I'm going to have Andrea on speed dial now. We've shared a few WhatsApp messages. I need to carry on encouraging that relationship because I just feel you could ask Andrea anything. We should perhaps have an Ask Andrea podcast corner of like, Andrea, my baking tray is a little grubby. How do I clean it? She'd be like, I've got a solution for that.
That would be Brew with Stew, Robbo's rants, Ask Andrea.
And it's got to be like, and preferably non-running related because we love that sort of content as well. Just really random stuff. But it's all related because obviously like cleaning your baking trays, that takes time and it's annoying when you could be doing your strength work or you could be doing your running, all these things. What clothes do I buy that I don't need to iron? Bryn had the audacity to say, you can start ironing now. We've got space for an iron. I'm a passion right there, Gary.
Yes.
Let's go to Strava, where there's crimes happening every day, running crimes.
First up is Mark Duncan. Lakes in a day. It's very lakes in a day heavy, actually. 52 autumnal miles. Eddie, there's too many races. I would love to do lakes in a day, but it just never quite fits, and I'm a greedy runner, but even now I just think that'll be too much after a busy summer. But 62.1 miles for Mark with the longest run of 52.2, 13,054 feet of elevation. Next up is Jed Hallam. Solid week, Jed. Sensational Strava bars over the year. Very consistent, and then he would build to a race, and then he'd recover, and then he would build again. 66.1 miles for the week with the longest run of 27 miles and 6,867 feet. Next up is Dimmy at Feel Good Yoga. Lakes of the day again. You know, you got Blencathra, Hellfill and Fairfield, Bosch. That is just
that's a dream. That's a dream.
65.5 miles, 52.4 for a longest run, and 16,322 feet of vert for Dimmy. Heavy flex this week goes to Hannah Rickman and Robyn Cassidy. Smashed it at the Autumn 100 and Lakes in a Day too. You know, two great ambassadors for our sport, crushing it and having a great time too. Sensational. Kudos to all our Strava Club members, and if you would like to be in with a chance of a random shout out, then pop over to Strava, search for Tea and Trails, and join our Strava Club. Tales from the Trails.
I've not read this. I've just put it in. I thought I've sort of skimmed bits of it, and it looks like an absolute... This looks like it's going to be a disaster, so I love it. Right, Tales from the Trails. Having experienced the joy of running in races for a good long while, I decided some years ago that it was time to give something back. What better way to do this than to help with the local fun run, which raised money for the village and had asked for volunteers in the parish magazine. So I duly put my name forward, and before I knew it, I was at the meetings for the run, or should I say runs. There was a 2K, 5K and 10K. My role was to mark out the course in my first year, as I was frankly the only one on the team, who would be able to get around it. However, I did notice there was a lack of race knowledge within the team. In fact, no one was from the running community, and with dwindling numbers for the race, I thought we could do better. I knew that could be a fantastic and tricky half marathon course that would take in Ashdown Forest, for example, or that there were other ways to collect entry fees rather than by having checks sent through to the post. This was in 2019 after all, and it was not 1982. Do you remember that, when you had to send checks in the post? Oh, I love it. The next year, therefore, I stepped up and was more vocal about what could be achieved, and we decided to organise the race differently, but still not include the half marathon. Unfortunately, COVID hit and it was cancelled. We then got round to reorganising for the autumn of 2022, a different time of year, and also we thought, why not just start the half marathon as well? There was a lot of pushback for the change in the time of year, but I assured everyone that trail runners love the mud and are all the more happy in autumn conditions. We were on Find a Race. We'd informed local running groups. We had a reasonable number of entries. This was all going well. I felt that I had been vindicated for changing up the race, as it looked like we could make more money for the local community. However, we all know that pride comes before a fall. The morning of the race dawned. The team got to the hall where entrants would congregate and get a cup of tea in plenty of time. Oh my God, this race sounds incredible already. It all looked good. All did it. Runners started arriving, and at this point, we, or should I say I, realised that the admin of this race was slightly amateur. We were trying to collect phone numbers off people for safety reasons, as we had not prior to race day, and give them out race numbers and input onto perhaps the smallest typeface spreadsheet you can get. People, race numbers, race lengths, all got in a bit of a jumble. Once we got a system together, however, we did get everyone organised, and at the race briefing, I explained that anyone DNFing had to call me. They must carry a map with them, etc., etc. Right on time, the half marathon runners were ready to start. Had anyone put up the starting line? Anyone? Okay, let's just start from here. I mean, I had warned everyone it was a big half and closer to 14 miles, so a couple of meters here or there was not important. The course had been marked out and we had plenty of marshals on the course, and they did know what they were doing, we hoped. The half marathons went off at pace and we were then able to start the 10Kers. Now they had to split at a slightly different, oh my goodness, they had to sit at a slightly different pace than the half marathons. John, are the marshals still all fine? I asked. Yes, he said. I've moved some of them further on in the half marathon, was the answer. No, I shouted. Get them back or the 10Kers will be on the half marathon course. Just in time, disaster diverted as John called some of the marshals back to their first post. Next, the 5... Oh, my God. This is going on. I'm not even at the bottom of the text yet. Next, the 5Ks were off, and finally the 2K kids. So with the 2K kids, it was an out and back. John, do we have a marshal there to explain where to turn back? Yes, said John confidently. It is one of the marshals on the 10K course. But John, I explained, they are 1.5 miles away. These little kids will be doing 3 miles, not 2K. Before I knew it, John was running away from me so he could marshal the 2K young kids, hot-footing behind them. We wouldn't catch up, Gary. This would have all been okay, but we really did need some more hands back at base. After all, there were only 3 of us organising this thing. We had no sooner drawn breath, slept a quick drink before someone arrived at the door of the hall. Is this the finish? He said. Oh, hang on a sec. Is this the finish? He said in an American twang. It will be, I said, in my head thinking, shit, we should have put the finish line up yet. And the timer chap is not sitting there marking finish times. Well, said the American runner, who I could now see was top to toe mud. I've just finished the half marathon course. Oh, I think it was. I did 15 miles as I got a bit lost. I looked at my watch. I had not expected anyone to be back for 20 minutes. At least, so I questioned this chap on his route, then got chatting to him. And it was then that he informed me that he was in the US military on an overseas placement and that he was one of the US military ultra running team. Brackets at our little race. Lots of exclamation marks.
Hey.
Of all the races and all the towns, you show up to this one. I know what's coming. I know the person who's writing this as well. Whilst I then came over a bit hot and bothered, realising a lot slower than normal that actually he was quite a fitty. When I realised his prowess and more of was a more immediate issue was if he got lost, how many more had? And let's get the finish line up. And where is the guy doing the timing? No time to fret because people then started running in from all directions and had clearly got lost on the route. There was a bunch of 5Kers outflanking me to the left, a half marathoner stumbling up the road. The timing chap had lost all sense of ability to check people's times. And who knew whether the correct people got the prizes? To top it all, one of the marshals calling saying that 2 entrants had definitely gone wrong way, but he dashed after them and couldn't keep up. I subsequently tracked them down by phone as I was worried they were still out in the wilderness. Shouldn't have panicked. They were in the bath when I called and another was at the curry house. Somehow we got through the next hour. Our saving grace was that the course is absolutely stunning and most people were good-humoured and recognised this was a charity race. We learned from our mistakes and last year we got rid of the 2K and the 5K and held the 10K and the half marathon. It was a different event altogether. It went so smoothly. We didn't lose anyone. There was a start and a finish and proper timing. Every marshal ticked off race numbers in a run-up bingo, so we knew where everyone was on the course. We are still just a small team putting on a local race for charity, and it's very much an amateur event, but the course is still one of the most challenging and beautiful I know. I'm lucky to get to run it whenever I like. It has been renamed the Honey Run, as our village Hartfield is home to Winnie the Pooh, and the race goes over Pooh Bridge and through 100 Acre Wood. You may also have come across Owl's house on the half marathon. Last year, we even had a team dressed up as Winnie, Tigger, and Eeyore. A challenging run for everyone, and we do not pack up until the last runner is in. There is no cut-off. Hopefully, this tale will encourage some would-be trail runners to come and find us in November in Sussex. But much, much more, it really opened my eyes to how much there is involved in organising a race and to never take for granted the hard work that goes into organising such a thing so we can all go out and have a bit of a hop, skip and a jump, just as Winnie and his friends would do for our own sense of achievement and fun. That is one of my favourite tales from the trails.
Chaos.
So far. Chaos.
Oh,
I
my goodness
love it.
me.
Oh my gosh. If you're around in the Sussex area, you need to go and experience the Honey Run. Set the bar low. I think if they offer a cup of tea before the start of the race, I'm up for that.
That sounds sensational.
Keep sending in your Tales from the Trails. We love them. Don't forget to put Tales from the Trails in the email inbox. Would you like to organise a race, Gary? I wouldn't want to ever organise a race, but I know a company that might.
I don't mind putting my name to a race if I trusted the company.
Really trust. Oh my goodness, I have to really trust the company.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I wouldn't mind being involved in organising a race if I didn't have to do any planning. Somebody just said, Eddie, you need to stand here and look sensational. I could say, I'll do that every day. Hold the mic. And could you possibly have a shower before you start the race? That made me laugh so much when John went off running because he said, I'm just going to turn them back.
John had a workout that day. Here's a 5-star review, but they only give us technically 4 stars. That is literally the review. Mike from Dorset by Apple
You're
Podcasts.
hilarious, Mike. You're brilliant. Let's get you on the podcast.
5-star. What a pod, all caps. Every now and then you stumble across a podcast that just works. The chemistry between Eddie and Gary is brilliant. This show has laughs and tears and everything in between. It's just an easy listen, and I mean that in the nicest way. Would you prefer to be Eddie Pirate Radio or Radio 2 Big Bucks?
There's 2 things that upset me about this review. The chemistry makes me feel a bit sick between you.
You don't like that, do you?
It makes it feel like we should be grinding or something. And
that is not what came into my mind at all. It's shocking.
Well, it's more, and it's also the way the Strictly couples are always described, aren't they? That's why I was thinking about it, because I always go, the chemistry between you two.
Well, there's been a bit of controversy on Strictly. I don't want to.
Oh, Gary, I went too deep. I looked at the video.
Didn't look good, did it? That's all I'll say.
So we hadn't got TV yet, so we couldn't watch Strictly, but then I heard it on the radio, and so I thought, I need to know this. So then I'm ashamed of myself, but I Googled it, and then I looked. I know, but I wanted it, and it didn't look good. No, that wasn't a joke. That wasn't a joke. She looked at him like I look at you. Or actually, it should be the other way. It's how you look at me, Gary, when you're like, "Oh, Eddie, but yeah, get your hands off me, you dirty dog."
Well, I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't know, but yeah. See, this thing is when you see these things, they slow the motion down, they slow it down, it's a little bit out of context. Yeah, I must admit, it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Anyway, there's great chemistry between us because I love you, Gaza.
Back at you, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Oh, we haven't finished it. Maybe you need to start this again because I want to really. It's my favourite time of the week.
It's just easy listening, and I mean that in the nicest way. Can't wait for Friday to come around for a new episode, and that's from Anton's 99.
Oh my gosh, it's from Anton de Beck. That's why he's saying about the chemistry.
By our podcast.
I'm very happy. We don't try and be anything we're not, Gary, on this podcast. I'm very happy to describe as easy listening because that is my favorite sort of podcast that I love to listen to as well. I've gone German now. Why do we listen to them? I listen to them to learn. And those take some concentration. Some of my science ones,
That's why the rest, you've got to get on with the rest is history because there is knowledge and it is entertaining too.
Yes, I know I should. But I also listen to them for company and for familiarity. There's something about those voices. So we're here for it all. We love your reviews and it really does help the podcast grow. Please pop over to iTunes or Spotify and leave a 5-star review. If you're busy, time pressed, we hear that. Just be like Mike from Dorset and he just put 5 stars. He put, here's a 5-star review with his 4 stars, which we thought was hilarious. Mike, you might want to pop back on and add. Oh, maybe he does think it's just 4 stars. That is missing that star because we talked too much about.
What did I say? Something popped up on social media, and they'd reviewed a doctor, and the review was, "This guy's literally saved my life." But they only give him a 4-star review. It's like, well, what do you have to do to get a 5-star review?
I think I know what you have to do, Gary, and it involves the red shorts.
I have to ration the red shorts, so it's too much.
Oh, you do? Because also you can't bring them out for like Tom, Dick or Harry.
Yeah.
Really special occasion.
I'll flex all the time.
Competition time. Harry at Trail Running are supplying the prize for this month's competition. Oh, we're getting to the point, Gary. How many? This is our last week.
Yeah.
You could win any one item from the Harrier range. What a prize. You might like some running poles, a hydration vest, a dry bag, or even an insulated jacket. There's loads of stuff over on their webpage. What you need to do, like the pinned competition post that's on our Facebook page, share the pinned competition post, and in the comments, put a picture of you, or there's quite a few dogs, friends on the trails. We are not fussy. We'll pick a winner on the 21st of October. Thanks to everybody who's already taken part. I keep looking through and it's going to take me some time, Carrie.
Is there something sensational happens between now and the 21st? I know my winner.
Don't be, if you're listening, you've not entered, raise your game. Gary's just Gary. It's just like the removal men that said, we'll try and do this in a day. And I thought, you will do this in a day. Let's do this. What's coming up? I have planned I've Strava heat mapped a 17-mile run, which takes into what I reckon is my everyday circular. So I'm going to do a circle around the trails I can get to during the week. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm going to try and get right around my perimeter, basically, all on trails. This could end in disaster, or it could be good. So Saturday morning, I can't, I've left a box of stuff back up where we were staying, and it's got my hydration vest in. So I've been shoving gels down my pants, Gary, but it's led to some quite tricky chaffing and some pretty dehydrated runs. So I've got to drive an hour up the road and go and get my vest. Otherwise, 17 miles is going to be, and I want to start chugging some fuel down. So hopefully Saturday I'm going to get that done. Half term cracking along next week. But I'm actually quite ready for it.
That has come on us fast.
That has come us fast. I'm ready for it. Kids, do you know what the kids said? Oh, I don't want to. I love school. Can you believe that? What the hell?
I enjoyed school, but I enjoy the holidays more.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to get lions. I think because they know that they're going to have to put together every piece of flatback furniture in the IKEA catalogue, that they're slightly nervous about it. So yeah, half term, but I don't have to do the school run. All parents will understand this. It gives me an extra chunk of time of my day, so I can go out running early and then be back and I'm not going to get teenagers out of bed. Do you ever get teenagers? I'll just shut their doors and wait till they surface.
Don't even try these days.
Don't even try. I'm just going to leave them in there. The other one can come down and just lie watching Match of the Day special for 14 hours. Because we haven't had a TV for so long. I feel like they can pretty much watch TV the whole half term. Catch up.
Go for it.
Big news. Oh my God, I can't believe I've not dropped this in. Hopefully it'll be here next week. I ummed and ahed whether to do this because we've had a big load of financial outlay, but in my secret bank account, which everyone should have ready for those crimes of passion, I have saved up a little bit of money to buy my gym equipment so that I can have it at home in the garage. I have got I have got kettlebells and dumbbells and things, but I haven't got a squat rack. So that's basically
sensational.
I know. So I've bought myself a squat rack and a hex bar so I can deadlift. Looking at this as
so jealous.
Yeah, I haven't told Bryn, but he doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm looking at this as a future investment to Bryn's health as well. I'm going to get him in there, to my health as well, because it is so important, even more important as a woman, as a man, to lift heavy. And I want to carry on lifting heavy until I get taken out of the gym because I'm old. It's time to get you to the care home now, dear. Let me just finish my gym session. So I'm looking at investment in my future health as well. I'm so excited because a game changer. I could just get my treadmill straight off the treadmill. Don't even need to wipe the sweat away because it's my gym. No need for anti-bac in here. Oh, no. Feel free. So I spent far too long looking at what should I get? And then I decided to just keep it simple and just get a squat rack, hex, just so you can do exactly what I'm not looking to do anything complicated, just my five big exercises and just be able to get them done at home. There is a gym about 3 or 4 miles away, so I thought I could tie that in with running to the gym. I don't have time for that, Gary. It's just so much easier just to have it here, and we can all use it. Kids can.
It's got to be decent stuff, hasn't it? It's like the treadmill. Although, yes, you think it is just for home, to get the best out of it, it's got to be half decent kit.
Well, that's why as well I haven't gone for anything fancy, because I don't need any cables. I don't need pulley stuff. Also, I'm never going to be able to put it all together. So I've just gone simple, and I can do all my simple exercises, because also I just like it being stuff that I'm really comfortable doing. Get in, get out, get in, get out, get it done. So
I can see you doing you've got a little chain around your waist with a weight attached to
That's it. That's
chin-ups.
exactly. Yep. Chin-ups. And then probably tied a few children to it as well. At the same time, having my protein shake. Let's just keep it simple, Gary. Keep it real. This is real. So that's I'm waiting. But I mean, it was pretty tricky. The guys delivering the chest of drawers. What are they going to think when those weights arrive? Oh my God, I'm going to have to go on the lorry and get them off. That's going to be a whole podcast episode. Eddie gets the weights off the lorry. So yeah, I'm just going to do one session this week because I'm going to do, I want to do a good long run. And I think the long session will be uphill classic on the treadmill. I'm really happy though, because all my local trail runs, I'm finding out, the classic 5 mile, 6 mile, 10 mile loops. My 10 mile loop has got 1,000 feet of vert in it, but without, with I didn't even really feel I went up any hills, just undulating. So last week I got 9,000 feet of climbing I did that one big treadmill session, but apart from that, the rest of it was just, so it's good. It's nice. Next week will be a steady away week, half term, but we'll make it work.
And what's the countdown? How many weeks?
We're not talking about that. We don't need to talk about that. It gives me absolute fear.
I love that. Again, say Lake 100 or 13 Valleys. 8 weeks to go, 9 weeks to go. And then all of a sudden it's like,
where the hell? What? I just don't want to get injured, Gary. I just don't want to get injured. And that's why I'm being slightly I prefer to rock up a little bit, having just done one session a week. I just can't. So much other life stuff going on that I just got to be, and I say this to my athletes a lot as well, you've just got to manage it to keep the consistency. And if that means you turn the dial down a little bit, that's good. It means you can turn up the other day. So I'm just keeping that thermostat down to 18 rather than where I would like it at 25. What about you? What's occurring?
I don't know if it's 50-50. We're just trying to...
Where's this happening? Suddenly back to the lakes.
Maybe Thursday. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, maybe Thursday to the Hillville and Recce. But training-wise, yes, we are back training. It's not proper training. I said it maybe a couple of weeks ago. I need to keep that headspace for All County Tops, the big push next year. But I think I'll benefit from a little bit of structure. Now that Freddos are actually technically sports nutrition,
they made it. Before we know it, that is going to be rebranded in some sort of like stripes and stuff, isn't it? And like it's going to have the protein labeled on the packaging and the carbs.
Goodness me, yeah. But that's made it into my sports nutrition box, so I need to just stop. Take the hand out of the box of Freddos.
Your box, Gary.
But yeah, a little bit more structure, a little bit more focus, but not too much bandwidth given to it because, like I say, I just need to keep myself for the All County Tops 2 strength sessions. That would be good if I could incorporate some non-negotiables into my week. 1 at home and 1 down the gym. That would be a gold star. 3 would be ideal, but sometimes, like I've said before, I think if you do 3, for me personally anyway, then that puts too much load on a workout that you're going to do.
Yeah, unless you do like a proper, that I'm actually just going to strength train. You get too bulky as well, Gary, with all those protein from those Freddos.
Well, I'm not like you. You seem to look at a doorbell and hench up. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work for Gary. But yeah, if I could get those down to the non-negotiables, twice a week, that would be awesome.
I'm so looking forward to that, Doms. Go in heavy. Go back to the weights and reps you were doing. So like 6 reps, heavy as you can. Let's see what happens.
Well, not doing that.
Well, not right. It's 1 o'clock. Do you know what 1 o'clock time is, Gary?
Lunchtime.
Cheese and pickle. Cheese and pickle.
I'm going old school, a little bit different today, though. Soft boiled eggs with the dippy soldiers today.
For lunch?
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
What is wrong with that?
That's breakfast. That's what kids have for breakfast.
3 eggs, 2 slices of white bread.
3 eggs?
Yeah.
So your poor chicken.
Hench.
You're going to be so hunch. I'm just going to go cheese and pickle, and then I have a couple of cheese and onion crisps just to add the cheese and onion. I chop up a carrot and I chop up an apple and a big mug of tea.
Oh, I love an apple.
If I'm feeling really dirty, Gary, and things are a little quiet and I'm a little bit tired.
I'm going to close my eyes when you say this. Talk dirty to me.
I just get my big mug of tea and I can sit in my comfy chair and I just watch about 15 minutes of Selling Sunset and I just so happy.
That'll do it.
So happy that Rochelle and Bree, I just want some arguing. And then my eyes start going and then I'm like, right, get up, get on, turn this crap off. That doesn't happen very much, but it might happen today. Right. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're still running, you're doing sensational. Keep it going. Slurp down some Precision Fuel hydration. Take a suck of that gel, maybe a little nibble of a Fredo, whatever tickles your boat, but just keep fueling. Please share this episode. Pop over to YouTube, subscribe. Every little click, every little share helps us keep growing the podcast and showing up week after week and talking absolute drivel. Thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration, X-Miles and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. Remember those new customer discount codes, T15 for Protein Rebel and T24 for Precision Fuel and Hydration. Thank you to our partners and Patreons too. Honestly, we couldn't do this without you and we love your ongoing support.
Was that little Lord of the Rings spin-off, nibbling Fredo? Slip of the tongue. Let the trail rise to meet you and the wind always be on your back. Be kind to future self, breathe and believe, and progress, not perfection. My name is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 92 of the Tea and Trails podcast.